Welcome to Tactical Crouch, your favorite anime podcast. Just quick show of hands. Does anyone want to talk about Overwatch today? Okay, so only anime. I got you. I got you guys. Kenobi, you're no longer welcome here.
All right, see you guys.
no Overwatch talk today. Wow, I don't know. 213. Here we go. There's been what has happened? I don't even know. Has there been player movements? It's been one retirement. There's been some people leaving Blizzard. Some more rumor mongering. I suppose actually one big thing kind of did happen. Supposedly the outsourcing of operations has been confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
Who did it get confirmed by again? We'll talk about this more.
I think it's still Kevin Hitt with
Kevin Hitt confirmed
sports
it.
business
Okay.
journal, but like the information is still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And what else? We actually have. So, well, I don't know if people saw this in the earnings report, but they mentioned, maybe I don't know how much you want to read into this, but they mentioned they were making good progress on Diablo and Overwatch. But I mean, that also sounds like PR speak. So who knows?
Yeah.
You know, they of course they would say that, so it's like difficult to gauge. COD runs an official co-stream with Tim the Tap Man, which opens up discussion about like what co-streaming for Overwatch League looks like this year. So I think Activision Blizzard really need to get on board and get on the boat with how the current co-streaming meta is for, you know, streaming in general. Also,
Plat chat co-stream, plat chat co-stream.
Right, you know, obviously stuff like that. Cool. I mean, I think that's the kind of the rundown. Then obviously we're just going to spend 2 hours talking about Attack on Titan because we didn't talk about it at all last week, and a lot has happened since then. And so we chose one of the biggest, like, I think anime heads we have in our circle here. And I was like, well, we might as well get Kenobi on for the big AOT episode because this is the one that you really want to talk about and get in on. We're going to start with Overwatch stuff though, first and foremost. So, without further ado, this is going to be a quick intro. We usually don't do quick intros. Without further ado, 213, brought to you by Battlecrab, Refine Bean, Bronzebot Boohound, Chare, Prophet Picasso, Chris R34444, Crush 67, Lulshin, Porkchop Sammy, Rex, Sangster, Girthalot, Volamel, Smooth Nuts, and Your Misery. Do we want to begin with... We'll begin with talking about where the Chinese teams are at. Let's dive into Kenobi's headspace.
The other reason I'm here.
Real quick. Is to get Kenobi's update on Chinese teams. We've all had an update. We all know where the Chinese teams are at. But where's your head at in regards to Chinese teams?
Well, one of them will be a team at least this year. So the Valiant actually seem to be making some good moves compared to what they were doing last season. And I think that they're doing the smart thing, which is just picking up a lot of the core of the Team CC roster that was so good. You're getting No Hill, who I think is a very good coach, who I think actually doesn't get enough credit for the LG Huya performance that they had when they were really good. Because when it was LG Huya that went to Gauntlet and that went to Showdown, that like bustered, that was Dokebi who was coaching it at the time.
Yeah.
And I think that after that, like, he got a little bit of a bad rap, and then he went to Team CC, and then it was just like, you know, this is the best team that's probably ever played in contenders. You know, I think it's, or at least one of the, because, you know, you have Funi, you have as well American Tornado, which kind of, it actually really sucks that we didn't get American Tornado versus Team CC for like COVID reasons, because I think that matchup would have been really, really sick.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the fact that the Valiant have decided to go this direction gives me a little bit of hopium. I think getting Coldest, very good pickup in my eyes. I was a Coldest stan when he was coming out of contenders from Flag Gaming. I thought he was, at the time, the best flex support in China. He even had like the name, you know, Chinese JJANGGU.
Right.
So I think he's kind of fallen off because of the fact that he was on Spark, and Spark with their roster kind of played musical chairs. and Coldest was always not able to get into position to play because Bebe was the one who I believe is the shot caller, and I believe that was the reason that he was played more so often than Coldest. But Coldest, like, mechanically, like, pretty fucking good if he can recapture a little bit of the ability that he had when he was coming out of contenders, because I think he was really good. Getting Dia, obviously, I think Dia should have been in Overwatch League last year, but his only option was to be on the Valiant, who was a team that I don't think he could have mentally stayed with going 0-16. There's no way that I think he made the right decision, even though I think that a team should have given him a shot. And now he's coming back. I think that that's really cool. I think he is a very underrated DPS in just the grand scheme of Overwatch, because I think he has a lot of the stink from the Shanghai team, unfortunately. But during 2019, I mean, AVRL watched in Gauntlet, and we all watched, like, he was a fucking beast, like, really,
2020,
really
right?
2020, yeah, sorry, 2020. So 2020, COVID, like, fucked up the years or whatever.
For everyone, yeah.
But yeah, 2020 was when, like, he was absolutely a freaking star. I think I would actually argue that he was one of the best, if not the best DPS on that side of the world. I think there were definitely, in NA and EU DPSs that were as good. But he was a standout star. And then getting Innovation, his partner in crime, along, that was not Spectra. Innovation's the one that I'm a bit skeptical on, just because of the fact that Innovation's biggest issue for me has always been that his hero pool is relatively small. It's very much just like, it was Tracer and it was Mei were like the two big things that he would play, and then beyond that there wasn't a lot. So I wonder if they're going to opt into, switching him out like as a specialist mostly, and then Becky will play most of the DPS alongside Dia. But overall, what they have so far between the Valiant, with the staff, with the players that they've signed already, there is hopium for this team, which is more than I could say for last year, because last year they had a player called Nevermind who didn't do anything.
He wasn't a play though. He was a coach signed on a play position, so they could dodge. They could fulfill minimum player requirements.
Okay, then let me put it this way: Silver 3 was on the team last year, so like there was no hopium for the roster last year for LA Valiant.
Come on, he had a good Genji.
The best Genji. If he's not in the DPS charts for Plat Chat, we're gonna have some issues.
True.
We're gonna beef.
Got to throw hands. Kenobi's coming in.
All right.
And then Erkey, I believe, is also rumored. That was the other thing that I neglected to mention. But that DPS lineup is, like, if it's true, it's pretty good.
So what they're gonna do? Like, have three? This is the problem. They have 3 hit scans or something.
Yeah,
it's pretty whack.
Innovation. Correct me if I'm wrong. Kenobi and AVRL, he was a little bit more Tracer leaning.
Very, very Tracer leaning.
Right.
That's like what he was known for. The reason that, like, Team CC struggled at least early in 2020 was that when it was like Echo meta, Innovation couldn't play any of the projectiles. Like he could only play Tracer and like Mei were like the two things. So then they had to go and sign Spectra. And the real problem for the Valiant is that Spectra is not of age to come to this team, because he would have been, I think, another really good piece. I think they're getting Becky, who is basically like the replacement kind of for Spectra.
Okay.
But I think, again, my biggest problem with Innovation is his hero pool, which makes me think that he's going to be the specialist and Becky will be the one who comes in and plays alongside Dia.
Surprised they even sign Innovation. I am and I'm not. Innovation's one of those like regular cast, recurring cast members of No Hills, products. But his hero pool is so, it's so unfortunate because he doesn't play all the good things you want to see on a hit scan, but he also doesn't fulfill all of the heroes that you want to see on a flex player. Yeah. So he's just got this like weird in-between hero pool that doesn't really do anything really quite well. And I don't know, like maybe in Overwatch 2 to just be different, but in Overwatch 1, I just feel like he didn't really have a place in most metas outside of like, okay, he plays Tracer, good. So in a Tracer plus hit scan meta, Dia will play hit scan, Innovation plays a Tracer. Well done, you nailed it. But beyond that, it's like, forget about doing anything actually projectile. Like you mentioned, Echo, huge problem. So they get Spectra in, great. But then at that point, I don't know, like you want Spectre and Innovation to be the same player that can just do it all. But maybe I'm just spoiled by like players in the Overwatch League that can do that, and so now I have unrealistic expectations of people in the flex position. I don't know.
I mean, kind of a question to the three of you. Like, does this scream like no hill foresight into thinking that like this game is going to be so mechanically intensive that like having this like weirdly wide but also not super wide DPS roster is like good? Or is this just like this is the best that we can do, let's just try to cobble together the good players and see what kind of meta we're walking into? Is this foresight, or is this more of like a potential hole for next year?
The thing about this signing, I mean, obviously he has the Team CC connection, which I think is like the biggest reason that he's on this team. If No Hill isn't the coach of this team, I doubt Innovation gets signed. So I think this is very much a home cooking type of deal between them. The thing that I do agree that it's a hole, because also the fact that, I mean, they're not really working with a game that they know, right? Like we don't know what's going to happen.
All
so you might as well just like pick up players that you at least have some sort of trust in, which I think he does have in Innovation, because I mean he
makes sense.
He was on that team for so long. No Hill coached him for a ton. It's more of like at this point in terms of DPS, because they're probably going to be the most impactful role, if they already are in Overwatch 1, but in Overwatch 2 I think even more so. You just got to pick, something that at least a little bit about. You have to have some sort of foundation to stand on with a player, especially coming into a new game, and I think that's most of the reason why Innovation signed. But AVRL's right, like there is such a freaking huge problem with his hero pool that he doesn't fit. He doesn't fit into a hit scan role or a flex DPS role. He's just a tracer player and then a few of different heroes on the side.
So it sounds like it's just worse striker. Does that mean to say that Innovation is just worse striker?
Well, striker could play Widow, couldn't he? Like,
yeah.
I don't know if you'd ever consider striker to be like. The problem with saying you can play Widow is like, to me, what counts as being able to play Widow and like being really good at, like to be actually useful in Widow is you have to be kind of a top Widow, because if you're anything less than that, you actually just get dominated by other Widows. To me, there's no like passable Widow. I think that there's a lot of heroes in the game where like you could say, oh well, you can just be passable. Widowmaker, you can't be passable, because if you are middling as a Widowmaker, you just get you get shat on by other Widows straight up. So you literally cannot just be middling. There's good Widows and then people who just shouldn't play Widow, right? I think those are the only two categories for Widow.
Yeah, yeah, you get gapped so hard
for sure.
Like, I don't know, but I remember him having maybe dipped into that upper echelon where you could feasibly say, okay, he's not a liability at this point. Like he's maybe like losing like 60% of the top duels. It's still pretty bad, but like, I mean, of course you want to have like, who was like, I mean, if we're thinking Widow metas, we're almost going all the way back to season 1, I would say. Right?
Double sniper stuff, yeah.
And I mean, who was good back then? Was it like
I guess there was like
Pine,
Fleta, Pine,
Linkser,
in a way, Linkser.
So yeah, I mean, what does that even mean anymore to go 3 years back?
Yeah,
like who's good at Widow?
And then there are names that like now you would point to and be like, yeah, of course, like if you could have like Prime Decay, if you could have Ons, if you could have Kai, if you could have. There are plenty of names now that stick out, but they just haven't really had a chance to showcase that.
I mean,
sure, yeah,
right now,
yeah.
So where would you overall rate Valiant? I mean, yeah, okay, you saying they've improved, but we all know that. Everyone knows they've improved from last year's roster. It's very difficult to not improve from last year's roster.
Yeah.
But are they competitive enough? Because we have conflicting takes on this panel. Yiska's had put them far enough above that like they could be like one of the more. Where did you put them? Like, did you say top 3 or something? What is
I said mid tier. So mid is 4th.
APAC?
Yeah.
Mid is 4th. So you said they could be as high as 4th. I forgot what Joe said, but I have said that Valiant are probably still last place in APAC despite the changes. That's my honest take.
Let me check the APAC standings because I need to make sure that I'm not talking
Yep.
BS.
My stance is that they probably battle with the Zhous and aren't last. I'll give them that much.
Oh,
Yeah.
Kenobi's working himself into a fucking frenzy here.
No.
He's
I'm
about to agree.
I need to like. I was just checking.
I think he's probably pulling up like all the rosters.
Yeah, I was just pulling up the East roster just because I wanted to check and make sure that I wasn't talking BS. No. I think that they are. So it's Chengdu, it's Guangzhou, it's Hangzhou, and it's okay. I have them all here.
Just go to Wikipedia. Go to Wikipedia.
Yeah. I think that. So I think I agree with I think I agree with AVRL actually. I think that this is a team that is probably
Still last place.
It's either them or Guangzhou. It's I think those are probably the two that are at the bottom. I think that Valiant is like gonna win games. They're gonna make things competitive, but unfortunately, APAC is fucking stacked right now. Besides Guangzhou, who I think is like the weakest.
But even Guangzhou, like if they have developed, you know,
Yeah,
I think Molly is good. Tracer Juan still. Do you know what I mean? Like even Guangzhou, if Krong gets back into form, he's a monster as well. So even that team is really good. So that's why I'm like, I don't think Valiant can be better than that. I
don't know. Is this too much like coach hopium? That's like
the
going in.
Buff?
Kind of. I look at a new game and I'm like, you need somebody to kind of keep these guys in check, and I just don't think that Guangzhou has that. That's who I'm like gunning for is like last, or it's like a Hangzhou like organizational like nuclear bomb blows up and this team once again fumbles the entire bag after kind of. I mean, you look at the Sparks roster on paper and that team's fucking ripped. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
These kids are yoked.
But the coach difference could kind of tip
that's why I think that they're probably gonna like they'll be last, but I don't think it'll be by like a wide margin. They'll be last like by a slim. They will take games off of like there'll be a game where like they will take a game off of like one of the top two teams. Guarantee it this season.
But they beat like a Seoul.
They'll beat a Seoul. Yeah, is that a top two team? You know,
I think Valiant is strong enough to not be winless. Right, we're not getting another 0-16. That I'm gonna happily easily put out into the ether. There's simply no way with their roster they can't be 0-16 again. Even though I think there's gonna be more games 16 anyway. But the point is they're not gonna be winless. They're gonna take some W's there. I just think the skill diff, like the individual mechanical skill diff, might come into place because there are some mechanically good players on Valiant, but I don't think there's enough. There's not enough like, damn, these are some like hardcore players. Yeah. There's some of that, and then there's some like, yeah, well, I mean, like innovations here. Paul's not great. I also don't even think he's individually that great either. Honestly, we still don't even have a tank on Valiant yet. If their tank options Wu Hiao, I'm not like super impressed with that. You know what I mean?
Please God, don't let it just be Wu Hiao.
And then it won't be, but you know they got to. I don't know who they can get. They have to get a Korean tank, somebody good. Yeah. It's just I'm not that big on Becky either. I mean, Becky was like good, but is he that good though? I mean,
stop bombing on this team.
It's just it's a middling roster at the peak. At the peak, it's a mid. Like if everything goes as well as it possibly can with this team, and No Hill is like the next Ray, this team is mid tier.
I think you're undervaluing, like, okay, the best case scenario for Valiant, like, we have an idea what that is. I think you're undervaluing the worst scenario for some of those teams. Like,
for everybody else. Fusion
could absolutely bomb. Like, I'm not convinced Chengdu without Ray won't bomb.
No, okay. No, if Chengdu is gonna have Leave and Aprita on that roster with Creed, Yao Shi, and Jay Feel, there is no way on God's green earth, unless there is some absolute disastrous thing that happens, that Valiant will finish above Chengdu.
Oh my God, this is a clipping moment.
Right now,
I think I agree. I agree
because shit me. Creed is literally from MY. Yao Shi is like a coach that won, contenders. This is a coaching roster that still has a lot of good pieces to it. The DPS lineup is fucking insane. the tank lineup is like Gaga's like can play at literally anything under the sun. Like there's nothing unless it goes so horribly wrong. Valiant are going to finish under Chengdu.
You have too much like mechanical skill. I value mechanical skill really highly, and especially moving to Overwatch 2, but just generally so as well. Because as a coach, you can only coach so far. Like the coach gap is relevant when there's enough parity in how close individual skill level of the players are. Then the coach gap becomes apparent. But if your player's just straight up better, especially in a new game, like for the coach gap to really become apparent, your players would have to be like uncoached and just doing random stuff and just like turning their brains off. But as long as they can like have some level of cohesion, which you're like top 500 plus players, been pros for a while. Even the rookies have been pros and contenders for a while. You're all like good players, you know. You're not you're not brain dead. You're not stupid. So you know how to play as a team, which means you can skill gap people so easily that even with the great coach in the other team, the players are just not good enough. I'm like, everyone's got a plan until Leave just fucking dunks on you. You can't beat that. Like with Leave on your team and his level of skill, unless he just starts reading manga only and him and Yveltal just go off and fuck around instead of going to scrims, right? Leave isn't falling off. And if Leave doesn't fall off and he's still just absolutely just purely destroying people, I don't see how he doesn't gap everybody else, right?
Don't mind me. I'm just like installing a little bad Pachimari clip reminder. So we... Okay, you got a clip here for the bad takes after the season when Chengdu is inevitably lost.
Bad takes.
Awesome, bad take. When are you gonna learn, dude? Like,
didn't this spring ever teach you anything, huh?
Yeah.
What teach what?
Didn't your spring ass whooping teach you anything last year?
You got the Twitter dunking you got when you said Dallas were gonna 3-0 Chengdu.
You have the whole Chengdu face paint going on because he
doesn't learn.
Save yourself.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, I don't.
Somebody didn't watch the best of video, which you should all go comment and like on.
Okay, Joel, what happened to Houston, huh?
Yeah, they were a top 5 team, and it was a bad take, and I am perpetually in that goddamn bunker.
Fair enough.
Man.
But for me, Valiant, I think the highest they get is like 4th. If No Hill is really just a god at coaching, they'll get 4th at the very best, and then I think where they probably end up is probably last again, unless there is like some really unless like Overwatch 2 is just a game that I'm just completely misreading. They're gonna be last place, unfortunately.
I'm just gonna put it out there. It's just like you have a situation where if you literally deleted Shanghai's coaching stuff, like they all walked and Shanghai had 0 coaches, there is still no world. And let's say they walked and they all went to Valiant and now they all work under No Hill or with No Hill.
Yeah.
Valiant still don't beat Shanghai. There's no level of you can put Krusty, put every single best coach in your brain on Valiant. They still will never beat Shanghai, even if Shanghai have 0 coaching. That's the skill gaps that can exist. I think Seoul skill gap Valiant in that regard as well. I think there's other teams like Chengdu will skill gap Valiant in that regard as well. Leave might just do it on his own. So I think coach gap only exists when the teams are close enough in skill level to start with.
I agree. I'm not sure if Seoul's skill gap is that wide, to be honest.
Wait, they got the GOAT. What are you talking about?
Dude, bro, they got Smurf profits, man. I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah.
What is this? What is
I don't know what kind of
Smurf profits is that's powerful, man. That's powerful, my guy. It's I don't sleep on that.
We'll see.
People underrate Jonak as well. It's just like
you're never gonna financially recover from that one, Chief.
Yeah.
Vindame has been really good in contenders, and I mean, even if you're down in creative, Vindame's damn good. I think creative's underrated as well. So at worst, Solar underrated, so, and that's not bad. So what about the rest of these teams, Kenobi? That was just Valiant. You kind of touched on the Joe teams a little bit. You touched on Chengdu a little bit, but like where is it are the 2 Joe teams just like number 6 and number 5 to you, or do they get a little bit higher than that?
Oh, I think actually Hangzhou's roster is pretty freaking nuts. My issue with Hangzhou's roster is that I said this last year too. As I said, their roster is absolutely fucking stacked, and they mismanaged the absolute piss out of it.
Yes.
They had no idea what they're doing. The fact that Shy did not play the first, 3 games at all or I think it was 3 games, and then like they fired Pavane, right? Or who was the coach? Pagion, sorry. They fired him, and then Shy comes in. Shy looks like $1 million, and then like
we all knew he would.
Like everyone was aware that like Shy is the best player, and instead we're playing who are they even playing back then? It was like fucking
BQB. No. Sorry, BQB was a different team.
Was it like they were playing like Minsu and Architect, right? Like some stupid.
Yeah.
No, they were playing,
Godsby Architect.
Godsby.
I always get Godsby and BQB confused.
Old man,
BQB is one person to me.
Like old man strength, fucking whatever, and then Shy comes in, is absolutely unreal on DPS, and they look like so much better. So I think that I really need the coaching staff of this team. Like Miro, help me out here a little bit. I need this team to manage their roster correctly, so that way they can be good. Because if you look down this roster, you have Gusha, like I think top 10 main tank in Overwatch 1, absolute nut. Architect, really good. Shy, fucking nutter. Liga is still on this team and will probably come in like rotating. I think with Gusha is fine when you need to like play like some flex tank roles. I think I actually think their support line is incredibly underrated. I think Irony is a player that not a lot of people know about because he was in Chinese Contenders on BLG, but he's absolutely a fucking nut. Super Rich, who is now back to being Super Rich, I think really good as well. Especially on like kind of these highly dynamic type of main supports, like the Lucio, for instance, is like what I know him mostly for. Where I kind of have a slight issue with this team is the fact that they've brought up Pineapple and Alpha Yi. Alpha Yi, I can understand because Alpha Yi is very, very gifted on anything he plays, and he's a projectile player. I don't know, though, where the fuck Pineapple is going to play. I have zero idea.
Pretty much,
even then, but I mean, just have Architect is like would probably fill that role.
Double hit scan is a thing they're preparing for.
Yeah,
and they're not the only team that are preparing for a double hit scan potential meta. So
yes,
I can see the reasoning.
You can play Pineapple, and you can play. I guess you play Pineapple Shy would be like the option, and like I think that though, I don't know.
You do like a Tracer Widow or a Tracer Ashe or a Tracer fucking whoever.
You just do Ashe Widow or like whatever the new hit scan is. Like,
you could do.
You do literally double long range hit scan. That's why you have these guys on.
The thing is, I think that is also something that Architect can cover, right? Like,
yeah, that's what I was. That's what Widow. Architect can play hit scan.
No, Architect was a nutty Widow.
Yeah.
His Widow was good. You give him that.
So my what I'm. If I'm understanding correctly, at least what I know about Architect can cover some of the hit scans, correct? Like
some, I'd say so.
So
Cassidy
unless they are really just, I mean, Pineapple also, I think the reason that he's here, to be honest, also is that I think Hangzhou has shown that they don't really want to give up the talent that they have in the lower, like tier 2. They are very like, they really want to keep people in house because they did that last season too, with a lot of their signings that they brought up. I think that like, should everything work out with this team? I think this team is probably top 3, should be top 3 with all of the talent that they have. The DPS talent is really good if managed properly, which is the big thing. It needs to be, this is a team that needs to be managed correctly because last year they had a fucking incredible roster and they busted so nasty. So if they are able to put the pieces together for 5v5, they will be top 3. I think there's no doubt in my mind with the talent that they have.
I will say this because this is I need to clear this up because I just said like Coach Cap is not going to come in until people like the teams are going to be a little bit equal. I will also admit that there is like you can have negative coaching. Yeah. So just like in terms of good coaching, I will hold that belief. But in terms of like negative, like you can have coaches fumble your team and just like make the wrong calls and make your team worse. Like that is true. I'll concede that as 100%, which means like things can definitely be worse, which is why we had Hangzhou kind of fumble last season, and you just don't want to see that again because on paper their roster should be strong enough to compete alongside. I mean, I think their roster at its peak can compete alongside and beat Chengdu, which puts them in the top 3 next to Seoul and Shanghai, like you said, Kenobi. So
I think even
even if they do, I mean, it could be any combination. It could be if top 3 could be any combination assuming Spark don't fumble, of Dragon, Spark, Chengdu, and Seoul. Any of those 3 teams could be top 3.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. But it just has to be like again managed like properly.
Yep.
But you have go on.
I think one of the big things, like as we're kind of thinking through it, that like really has me excited is like I look at Gusha and I look at his like rise to the Overwatch League, and I look at what he could do mechanically better than I think a lot of people, and I still think that like to this day, even though we really haven't had like a big monkey meta, I think if you give him a new game and you give him like these new tanks, who again I'm assuming are going to be more mechanically intensive, but I don't think that's that crazy of an assumption. I think this kid's a fucking problem. I think this kid's gonna go fucking ape shit, no pun intended.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. It generally, I think like there are some roles that have just been in hibernation in terms of like you don't know if the player is still absolutely cracked on these roles, like hit scan players, for instance, or
Architect,
or like you know, the monkey players, if they still got it and like have the high mechanical skill scheme. We've been playing a bunch of Ryan or some Ball or some shit, which are much more knowledge demanding than mechanics. Even though I guess that's not technically true for Ball, but it's very different mechanics from Monkey.
Sure.
I feel like there are some sleepers in the Overwatch League in general, and we'll have to see like what kind of skill set will be facilitating, because like if it gets back to like really heavily dominant mechanics, right? Like there's very different players. Like I don't know, like. For instance, like, okay, the best case, we can talk about it now because he's not in Overwatch anymore, but like Corey was the ultimate, like, all mechanics player, right?
Yeah.
So if we're going towards that, like, would a player like that pop off again? So we'll see.
Why do we have to wait for him to leave the Overwatch League to talk about him? I don't know what that was.
Well, we're just gonna have to wait for him to leave TSM to come play Overwatch again. You know, it's not too far off.
Or based on how TSM's
I
going,
wanted to say,
it might be a better option. TSM fans cope right now.
I wanted to call him all aim no brain, but I guess that wasn't fair either. Even though his Zarya was pretty no brain, not gonna lie.
Kenobi, where do you have Guangzhou then? Is that a number? Is that like, okay, well they just won above Valiant, they'll be 6th place and call it that?
Yeah.
Basically,
I think that
no hope.
I like the Molly. I like the Molly pickup because I think Molly also has.
Are you high on Molly?
I'm very high on Molly. I think that
guy.
He was the best part of like that one LGE team that was really bad in Showdown and stuff. I think
I remember.
He really impressed me. He had some good moments on Chengdu from what I remember. Unfortunately, he's also, like Yiska said, been in hibernation where he's been playing behind all of the Shanghai players.
Does have a ring.
He gets one. But I mean, it's unfortunate because we haven't been able to see him play in a long time because he's sitting behind his Yaki, and there's no shot unless it's a match that like they had already won or something, or they weren't trying for, like Molly would play. The rest of the team, I think, is fine. I think Krong, obviously, very gifted as a tank player, would probably cover a lot of the tanks that are going to be played over Rio. Eileen, very gifted still. I haven't seen him really fall off at all lately. I mean, was it last year where we had the Genji meta, or 2 years ago?
2 years ago. 2020.
Okay. Yeah, my brain during COVID
again plague years, baby.
Yeah, it's awful. Everything I heard about Develop was that he's like a nut, but I can't really speak to him.
Nutty.
Unique either is someone who I don't really have a like great read on. This is like the one team where I feel like I don't have the best read on in terms of who their players are and like what they're capable of, but I don't know if even like just looking at it on paper, if they are able to hang with the big boys at the top. Definitely, I don't think that they can like get to the top 4 for sure. They're going to be fighting for like middle of the pack.
Yeah, they're a very DPS heavy team. So they're a front loaded team, massive DPS talent. I think the Eileen developed Choi trio is powerful, and people underrate Eileen as well. But I think Eileen's super flexible, brings a lot to the table.
Yeah.
He's still like one of my top tier Chinese DPSs in the triumvirate of like Eileen, Shy, Leave, as a trio would be your World Cup trio for Chinese DPS, right? People are like, what about a Predator? I'm like, bro, you have Shy on that team already. Like, why are you trying? Why are you just duplicating it? So you need someone that fills gaps. Come on, you don't know how to build a team. So yeah, okay. I generally, I think I have Guangzhou around 6 as well. I think I go Valiant, Guangzhou, and then probably Spark. I'm still pretty. I give Fusion. Spark? I give Fusion benefit of the doubt because that's the thing. It's a hard call to make. Only because I don't know if I trust Spark to not fumble yet.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
And beyond that as well, I think MN3 Zest is like they're kind of nutty, but we'll see what happens to the rest of the roster. Fix is okay. I think again, I didn't watch Uprising Academy, so I don't know that much about Fixer. Aim God's reasonable. I don't think he had the best season. Fury is Fury, so that's kind of self-expected. So we'll see how it goes. And any comments on Chengdu, generally Kenobi? We are still assuming a Predator comes to the roster, even though Chengdu are taking their damn time.
Chengdu to the moon!
Chengdu are taking their damn time to add a Predator to the roster.
Chengdu's going to win something this year, for once. Leave needs to get a trophy that's not an MVP. Like, he needs to get, like, an actual trophy, because
He nearly got one.
I mean, the
Shoe got in the way.
Yeah, Shoe literally, like, I remember seeing a clip of, like, this. They had the spray of Shoe in, like, the Baptiste, and Lee was, like, streaming, and he... someone sprayed it on him, and he just kind of like sat there and just looked at it on stream for like a couple of minutes. It was really funny. But
yeah, would have been traumatizing.
It is. I think they are so close. It's really unfortunate that they had this issue at the back end of the season with Yveltal reading manga and whatever, and not wanting to do his due diligence, because I think if
he's trying to get caught up on Attack on Titan.
I was gonna say, man, like that final chapter came out, he was like, bro, I need to check this shit out
for sure. I think if Yveltal was playing, they actually would have gone way further than they did. Because I think Nisha, I think they obviously didn't want to play Nisha. I think the goal was to play Yveltal mostly, and I think Nisha playing, while Nisha's okay and does a lot of the same things that Yveltal does on Mercy, it's not the same. It is a different beast when Yveltal's playing that character. So I think overall for this team, Prida needs to get announced ASAP, because if he's not playing for this team, I need to know who is getting him, why they're getting him, why Chengdu's let him go, because it does not make any sense to me that they would let this talent leave, especially because they initially like hoodwinked him from Flag Gaming, like immediately after Team CC lost to Flag Gaming, and Flag Gaming was going to go to Gauntlet. Team Tissue's like, okay, Monk and Aprita, who are the best players on the team, they're mine now. We're starting a new team. Yeah. These are ours. And it wouldn't make sense for them to now say, yeah, we don't want Aprita.
And then they also like shifted the DPS like players around, where they actually had people move down, and they've made room for him. At least that's what we're assuming. So like it only serves to bolster your point. Right?
He's won 3 MVPs in a row in the finals. 3 MVPs in a row. Like Aprita. He is so fucking good. It should not be possible for Chengdu to lose this player. And I'm speaking as if they like have, but like just announce it. Give me my Leave Aprita DPS duo. It's going to absolutely pound. It's going to be nuts. And Chengdu is going to be top 3 easily this season. Clip that one.
Wow, top three APAC? Hang on. Top 3 APAC, top 3 global.
APAC.
Right. How are they going to win something if they're not top 3 global?
Well, they'll win.
You said they're going to win.
They'll win like a stage, hopefully, or something.
Well, how do they win a stage if they're not top 3 global?
You can.
I don't know. Anything can happen. The first stage Dallas wasn't top 3 global.
So what do you mean? So they would have to upset like 5 teams, like surely the teams that have a real shot at winning a stage have to be like an actual top team.
Are we saying by end of the season? Because I mean, stages could happen and then they just like do really good in a stage and then they go and they win a stage, and then but they still end up in the end of the season 3rd. Like that's possible.
They'd have to be argued in like the top 5 at some point.
I'm just saying, like,
I think they actually globally, I think they are probably like, I think they can definitely. I want to say that they can get to top 5. I am a little bit hesitant without Ray. If Ray gets this team, and with like the additions that I think they're making to it, I think this team could very easily get top 5 global.
Sure.
But I think Creed is like a good person to take the mantle because he's old MY. He's been the apprentice to Ray for a very long time. Yaoshi is part of that Flag Gaming team or the Flag Gaming coaching roster that beat Team CC that one time. And Jayfield,
is Jayfield,
Yeah, is Jayfield.
He's around.
Yeah. But like talent-wise, you have the MVP on your team. You have a very stacked support line with it's probably going to be, I guess it'll be Nisha. I don't know what Yveltal's doing. If I assume he might stay, but I don't know.
Well, he's still signed. I mean, they didn't get rid of him.
He is two-way though, so I don't know what the deal is.
Is
there.
he? Sorry, did you say two-way?
Yeah, he's two-way.
Okay, I didn't actually know that.
So I mean,
he was two-way last year because he was still on. He was getting experience from Chaser,
Yeah.
but then he was. I mean, okay, technically two-way, but he was realistically and practically like a.
Yeah, he didn't play at all
member.
for Team Chaser. So
I don't know if he's still two-way though. That's the thing.
That's what it says on Wikipedia that he is, but I don't know. But yeah, I think overall this team is, when we talk about good coaching, I think this is like one of the perfect examples of like what good coaching could do to a team and how it makes it better. Because you remember 2020, Chengdu sucked. Dokebi, absolutely piss poor coaching for that roster. And then as soon as they got rid of Dokebi and they got Chen in, he was all right. He wasn't like great, but it was more of that like negative coaching thing that AVRL was talking about. Leave is like playing like much better, looks really good. And then you get Ray in here and they get like an MVP season out of Leave. So I think that the team will be very good this season, but I am worried about the coaching staff slightly not being as good as Ray was.
Fair enough.
I think they're third, probably.
I think I agree. I think I have Shanghai, Seoul, Chengdu, then
Seoul could
as I
bust
said,
her, though. That's
and then I said Philly, Hangzhou, Guangzhou. Yeah, that's basically what I got.
Do we really need to talk about Shanghai either? Because I mean, they're gonna be like.
Do you have them auto first, or do you
I
have
have
any?
them auto first. Yeah,
okay.
no, they're auto first.
No reservation there.
Not at all.
Let me probe you with that though. Are they auto first global?
No.
Yeah, no, I do. No, I agree. I think I do.
I don't have.
I personally believe.
Global. I think. I don't know. Actually, it's very tough. I don't. Because I think that there are a lot of teams that have made very good changes to their roster. I think Glad's Copium. I think they look very good. Yep, Shock has done a very good job this offseason getting a lot of those OT Blast players who are just literally like plug and play guaranteed stars in their like I think it was like it's proper
Kilo Fin.
Yeah, proper Kilo Fin. AVRL, I probably don't have to explain to you how good those three are. I mean, you've been watching Korean contenders. Proper was like the next coming that we've been talking about. There are a lot of teams that I think are very good, and I think that putting Shanghai in first, I would be doing it solely because of the fact that they won so heavily last season. However, I really do think that there is a lot of good competition at the top. And granted, it's a new game, so like I'm not ready to just like, if this was like Overwatch 1 still, I would probably still give it to Shanghai auto, but since it's a new game and since there's like a lot of changes, I am not ready to put Shanghai number 1 globally. APAC for sure. It's not even close.
Sure. Yeah.
I think they stomp essentially everyone, but I can't.
Here's the problem. Well, sorry, who would you say is global then? But before I get to what I was going to say.
I don't even know. Like,
do you want to put Shock there? You were pretty high on them.
I really like Shock's roster.
So who do you have above Shanghai globally if you don't have Shanghai number 1? To not have Shanghai number 1 globally means you have thought about a team that is better than Shanghai. So who's that?
I think it's either Glads or Shock are the two that I'm fighting with. It's like those three.
Yep.
Those are the three that I think you can just interchange at the top.
So here's what I'm going to say about those three. Well, those two. They're both new teams. Shanghai is a retained roster I think they found the winning formula between all their members, and they still got Who Are You for just a little bit of extra flavor if they need more projectile. But they have found, I think, the mix of players that is, dare I say, perfect in terms of all their needs, what they want to do. I don't even think they need to get another support to add in there. I think Lee Dragon Easy is so fantastic as a support lineup that even for a double flex, Lee Dragon will pick it up. This guy's, I think he's the best support in the league. Void Fate, either one of them could be fantastic in Overwatch 2. And then between Who Are You, Flitter, Lip, especially Flitter, Lip, these guys will cover everything. I mean, Lip is still on his way. Lip is a player that could have been MVP last season. He's the other person that I advocated for MVP next to Leave. In fact, I advocated for Lip as MVP before I advocated for Leave. So these are, I think they were like two of the best players in the entire league last year. And then Flitter is Flitter, who was a former MVP himself. So it's like Shanghai, you have, from a player quality standpoint, they're right at the top of the list. And then beyond that as well, we've kept everything together. We haven't changed the roster. You have mega consistency. Everyone knows each other. Like, you have the highest mechanical skill, and then you also have this insane teamwork, trust, and just ability to play together as a team, single language as well, so no language barriers. You want to compare that to teams like Glads and Shocks, where they're like have all these changes, new people coming in, bunch of rookies. I'm not saying their rookies aren't going to perform well. I'm a person that thinks I'm the guy that introduced Proper to Reddit. Everyone thinks they talked about him. No one talked about Proper until I fucking started talking about Proper. So you guys can like give some damn credit. Jesus Christ. I decide what Reddit says, by the way, because you notice how Reddit doesn't have an opinion until I say it publicly, and then the next day they fucking just repeat what I said, but they don't credit me.
Unless they say you're stupid for having an opinion that you actually never had.
Yeah, or like they make up an opinion that I don't actually have, and they say it's my opinion, but it's not actually my opinion. In either case. So I'm just qualifying the fact that I'm big on the rookies coming in, but the thing is, you still have a new team that you're building together. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 6 rookies on Shock so far. Right? Your Violet Super's retained players. They all be adding more. I'm sure there'll be another tank next to Super. I'm sure they might think about another support next to Violet Finn. This is a team that's spending money. They're not going to cheap out last minute when they've already dropped bags on just about everybody. You've re-signed a Super to a new contract. That ain't cheap. Okay, you've put Proper in the #1 rookie prospect from contenders. It's not cheap. So Shock are definitely spending money. My point is like, this is a team that's going to have some teething issues to start. I think they're going to be great. I think they're like a top team. Don't get me wrong. I think you have Gladiators where, on paper, super strong. Rhino to me is still. We'll see how that happens. I think Space is still their #1 guy. I think Kevster is like their best player by far. And most people agree with that. Arns is still. He's still working on it. You know, he's still trying to find his mojo a little bit. We've seen Arns be a monster, but Arns has just been. You know, he's still. He's trying to recover right now. He's like Michael Jordan in Space Jam, but he hasn't quite won the basketball game yet. And I'm not saying his talent got stolen or anything, but like, you know, he doesn't. He's not 2020 Arns currently. Patty's only just come back from Valorant. This is like a quote unquote kind of new team as well. They have returning pieces. They have a lot more returning pieces than Shock. But I think they're going to be great, but I don't auto put them #1 either because when I look at the downsides, if there's like a pros and a cons column, the cons column of both Glads and Shock, there's just more there than there is for Shanghai for me. That's why Shanghai's an auto #1 for me.
I can't. The reason I can't like auto #1 a team. I mean, like, so I think if I had to auto, like, if like gun to my head, I literally have to pick someone. I probably pick Shanghai just because it's the safest bet. But like, it is a new game, and that is what is giving me the hesitation. While like everything you're right about, you know, Shanghai has this like incredible pedigree. The team's playing together. I don't know what Overwatch 2 looks like at all, and that's why like I'm slightly hesitant to like. Again, like if this was Overwatch 1, still, without a doubt, Shanghai is the best team in the league, hands down, bar none. There's no question about it. The fact that we are going to a new game entirely in 5v5 in Overwatch 2 is where I have the reservations, and where like a team that is full of just like, you know, 4 rookies, if they get hold of the game quickly, which I think that I mean, you know, no one's getting a hold of the game right now, but like, you know, while it's being played, I think they can definitely make some noise at the top of the league. So I agree with you 100% that Shanghai's like the best like auto pick for that #1. I just can't like auto pick someone. Just
So
'cause I
would
don't
it
know
be
if we can.
fair to kind of reshape that into saying like you're recalibrating a little bit more than like the opposite of that argument? Like you're resetting your priors from last season, going, look, we don't
Yeah,
know what
sure.
this is going to look like. I think it's safe to say that a lot of teams have improved. Like, is it an auto? No, but if you had to pick, yeah, it's probably
Yeah. If I had to
And
pick
also-
Avril's right
also,
that it should be Shanghai. Yeah.
I'm not even saying Shanghai is like gapping everybody. I'm not saying Shanghai is just like, oh, they're just going to win the season again. No one can touch them.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be plenty of teams giving them good competition within APAC as well, not just globally. Right.
Mhm.
So there will be plenty of teams that will give them a tough run. But if you based on current information, I haven't seen the game. I don't know what Overwatch 2 looks like.
Sure.
These guys don't know what Overwatch 2 looks like. Under what we know right now, they're currently my number one. This is a fluid thing. This is not in concrete. Right, the cement mixer it's going. The cement mixer hasn't stopped spinning. I've not put this into concrete. We're not drying the concrete just yet. So don't take this as me like
it's gonna be clipped on YouTube. On it's too late.
I mean,
It's
let's
gonna
wait
be
for the
clipped and
game.
put on Reddit, and everyone's gonna be saying, "I'm gonna see tomorrow morning when we wake up." Avril says Shanghai best team.
I mean,
yeah, and you know what? People
Who's
will
going
agree
to
with that
disagree?
because
Yeah.
it's like the easiest thing to say.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, well, yeah, he's right. You know, like is that wrong? Like that's pretty fuck. You know,
It's Reddit, dude.
It's
come
a very
on.
Some people are
gonna
maybe
definitely
one-
argue with you.
Maybe that one really angry Dallas fan who didn't like me will probably get annoyed at that comment, but they're deluded, so it doesn't really matter.
it's like the bell curve meme, right? Where you go like, the idiots think like, oh, Shanghai good because they won season, and then there's like the midwits going like, oh, but actually, like other teams, and then on the right side is AVRL again, high IQ take. Actually, Shanghai is still good because nuanced reasons.
Because they kept all of their again, the pros column, cons column. They kept all of the pros, and there's no fucking cons.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, what's a no-brainer? Like,
I mean, there's one
this is the best
con
team.
where you could say like it is really hard to stay on top, right?
Sure.
Like, is there a world where they maybe like have reached the pinnacle and maybe they don't want to?
This is like
one
a
of
newer
those
Shanghai though. You're like getting into like some 4D thing here. There's some fourth dimension commentary.
Yeah, this is like the championship mentality conversation, right? Like, are they, is it the Kobe Bryant where you just want to keep winning or whatever?
That's the pedigree that they have, is that you have to reach so far into like, okay, if you had to pick a reason, it would have to be like the mentality. It would have to be, maybe not improving isn't necessarily like the greatest thing ever. Maybe there is a team that can challenge you and maybe beat you. Like it's very vapid. You have to, crack out the yoga mat and really reach for it. But
I don't know. I was gonna. I don't. This is an interesting side topic. I don't know if we want to really get into it, but it's just like you have to consider the environment as well in terms of the logistics of where you are globally. Now in Overwatch 1, and so we'll get to. Let me lead up to this point because there's a little bit of nuance here. In Overwatch 1, you look at last year in Overwatch competition, all the APAC teams and especially Shanghai get to scrim in Korea. Cannot overstate how important that is.
And
if you are in North America, you just scrim the other NA teams, and then what? The only
American
other team
Tornado.
you can scrim is AT, and that's it. Have fun. Everyone gets to share American Tornado and then scrim each other, and then you don't want to scrim half the other NA teams because they're not worth your time. In APAC, I'm not, and sure, Guangzhou. This didn't help Guangzhou or Valiant at all. But for teams like Chengdu and Shanghai, and eventually Fusion and Seoul, you get access to O2 Blast, you get access to Team CC and Talon, and then each other as well, and you have all this high quality. So you ask Gladiators from last season why it was so difficult for them to pick up balls, despite being the only NA team that could like really. I mean, Dallas eventually got there, but originally Glads were the only team that could really play the ball, and they really got into it. You asked them about this; they found it difficult to practice ball because the other NA teams didn't fucking play ball, so they couldn't play this mirror matchup, and it's hard to play against Shanghai, who have mastered this because they could play against Chengdu and all these Korean teams. When you're Gladiators and like you have nobody you can play this against. So your logistics in terms of who you can practice against is just fucking bad in NA. Whereas in APAC, you get to play against Korea and then top Chinese teams. Yeah, Billy is still really damn good. So like you get O2, Talon, Billy, like the list goes on of these amazing tier 2 teams you can get quality practice against. Here's where that changes in Overwatch 2 though. things are a little bit weird here. I'm not saying you don't get that in your. It depends on how Overwatch 2 is implemented beyond Overwatch League. Does contenders get Overwatch 2? When do they get it? How many teams get it? What does it look like? Is there a beta? Does that mean, if the beta actually, because we've heard all these rumors back and forth about beta. When does that come? Who gets it? How many people get it? How open is it? All of that impacts your logistics of your scrim variety, because otherwise Shanghai, Seoul, and Chengdu just scrim each other and like forget everyone else. They just have like a triumvirate of a mini scrim circle, and then they just everyone else can get fucked, I guess, because it's not worth their time for quality. Maybe Spark because their team is really good on paper. Who knows? But it's bad if you are in a region. So there's like the heads and the tails of this coin flip. It could be really bad for APAC because there's only 7 teams. Your scrim quality is massively affected if you don't get access to tier 2, or you get the head side, which is like, well, it doesn't matter because then O2 Blast gets Overwatch 2, and then you can just play them, and you're good to go.
Yep. And you're just so far ahead, like just generally speaking. Yeah, I mean, that's difficult to argue, and I think I would only reiterate the point that like you cannot state that enough, that like practice played a significant role in last year's results and last year's like differentiation of the metas in the 2 regions, right? Like there's no surprise that the gladiators were so dive centric, right? Where everybody else was like unsure. You had Shock still running some Rhine stuff. You obviously had Atlanta running their kind of like bunker death ball looks, where it was completely day and night when you went to Asia, right? Like that, like there's a reason for it, and I think Avril's dead on the money that it comes from, the seeds that you plant. It's the practice that you're getting reflects what you think is good, reflects what you're actually going to play. So if you're playing in the best region with the best competition, it's tough to argue.
This will either positively or negatively affect Shanghai. So if I'm gonna squeeze the stone hard to get some blood to sort of counter my own point and my own perspective, it is that like, here's my like very small con that I can find just to play devil's advocate to myself, because that's the level of galactic chess I'm on right now.
You're just moving the pieces across the board.
Because God knows the public won't be able to do it for me, so I better do it for myself right now. And that's it. Like that's the major con, is like I think their region is maybe limited because there's only 7 teams, and we don't know when and how tier 2 is going to get access.
Yeah. No, the access point is actually, like, now that you guys mention it, it's actually potentially like absolutely that could be shifting a lot around, right? Depending on how it goes.
Yep.
Talent pipeline, scrim opportunity for sure, as you mentioned. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So that's Kenobi and everyone else's thoughts on APAC done and dusted. So we could have just let you go on for like a full hour. Kenobi was like, well, we might as well, everyone's got to jump in at least a little bit here. Why not? What's the next really interesting topic? I guess we can talk about, I think the next big topic that I wanted to get into is the whole third-party ops outsource kind of thing. So we talked about it last week already, but that was under the context of like, oh, maybe it could happen. Apparently it's just done now. And also we didn't really talk to Kenobi about it. So since you're here, we can get your thoughts. I think most of our opinions, like between me, Yiska, and Joe, haven't really changed from last week, or maybe they have and you can voice them now. But so where do you sit here, Kenobi?
Yeah,
I'm not
as like educated on the subject as I think I would like to be in terms of like the third party organization thing. I think that having it in-house, there are obviously pros and cons to it, and then same thing with like going out to third parties. I think if you're going to be doing third parties, I would hope that there's like a level of freedom. So just so I know, because like, is third parties like what Riot did with like OGN? Is that like what that would be?
No. So this would be like hypothetically, let me just paint you a picture here. This would be if Overwatch League went to OGN and said, will you run the Overwatch League for us? It won't be called OGN. You won't even see a logo on screen. It'll just be the Overwatch League, but behind the scenes, it's OGN running it. Right?
Okay,
That's what this is. But obviously, I use OGN as an example because it's safe, because they're not they're not they
not
don't
a thing
exist
anymore.
currently.
Yeah.
So they can't be OGN. It'll be somebody
Right,
else.
right.
Yeah,
So
you know what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, because I think that it's totally fine to do third party, especially if you're getting someone good to run it. And there are people, especially with the Microsoft thing, where if you want to like go back to MLG and say, do you want to run this third party for us? Again, if I'm like speaking wrong or anything like that, let me know, because it's not, again, a subject that I'm not too educated on. But I think that like if you have like MLG in the background, or you have some really talented people who can work at third party, I think that's definitely beneficial. So I think that overall, I am totally fine with it going third party. Like I really, for me, at least, again, knowing what I know about the subject, am not that worried about anything, or I'm not really sure how it could really affect it negatively.
Right.
That's how I would say.
I mean, fun fact: there's people don't really. I don't know if it should be obvious, but it's maybe not obvious for people that haven't thought deeper about it. But APAC is actually already operated by third party. Billy runs APAC, the whole region.
I did know. Actually, yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
So Billy, I think they have exclusive streaming rights in China as it is, but they beyond that they also do the operations of how stuff gets done there and the broadcast. And then for the English side, you know, we cast over their footage. They're observed. There's not NA observers. Billy have their own people on deck doing the observing and everything. They manage the whole thing. So technically speaking, we've already had Overwatch League put towards a third party in terms of operations for a while now. I mean, I don't know how long it's been. I don't imagine. Obviously, when it was in Blizzard Arena, that wasn't the case. So I would say that's post Blizzard Arena Overwatch League. Whenever Billy had that signed that exclusivity deal is probably when it started. If you want a date on a schedule here, so Esports Engine was. Not saying it is the Esports Engine, but I'm going to clarify that Esports Engine, I believe, is the operator for Call of Duty League.
Correct.
So there's a world.
I see.
There's a world where Esports Engine maybe just does Overwatch League as well. For people that don't know, again, Esports Engine is basically the people that were running MLG before Blizzard bought up MLG. So Adam Apicella is the head guy of Esports Engine, and Esports Engine also have a bunch of Blizzard staff on there, not just MLG, but like Blizzard people.
Also, yes, agreed.
I think Kayla Glover's on there, and she used to be the Path to Pro number 2, right? So she's on there as well. So there's very familiar people on that Esports Engine team with both Call of Duty and Overwatch League products. Again, not confirming or saying. I don't even know who it is, but hypothetically, it could be Esports Engine.
That's the worry is that the report that Kevin Hitt published on sportsbusinessjournal.com is that we really don't know. Apparently, there has been a suitor found, but what we do know per his report is that quote, and while there have been rumors that Adam Apicella's and Esports Engine have already been selected to join the OWL production, sources tell SBJ that this isn't the case. Esports Engine is already the Call of Duty League, and Halo taking on Overwatch League might be too much at this time, end quote. So we know it's, at least per this report, that we know it's not Esports Engine. That's where, at least for me, my alarms are like, okay.
So I mean,
I'm a little fidgety.
So I guess for me, when I look at like if it's a third party, it has to be. I would like it to be someone that like actually like is obviously good, right? Where and like knows what they're doing in terms of like making esports a good product, which I think Esports Engine obviously does with like a bunch of the stuff that they're doing with Halo and Call of Duty. I don't know who are the other options outside of Esports Engine, which I think is what, Joe, I'm hearing from you is that
there's a few.
I don't know.
I'm
a little concerned.
I again, very new to this subject.
Maybe you could just do it, Kenobi. I reckon you just do it.
Oh, you want me to do it, dude? Okay.
I think Kenobi would fucking.
I think we talked to Mushu. We talked to Mushu. We get Broadcast GG on it.
Yeah.
Broadcast GG could do it. Mushu
Let's
could
do
do
that.
it.
Let's do that.
Get it done. Get the real old school Contenders China squad on it. Get it done.
Yeah.
Get it done.
We got half of it on the desk, or we got half of it right here at the bottom.
I don't know half, but
so
you were on those.
I mean, yeah, I was there. But half.
There were only 4 people apparently. Is what I heard. So it's somebody. Assuming Kevin Hitt really knows what he's talking about. I mean, I don't think you report on this on SBJ unless like you really had something going.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to give benefit of the doubt for now, and we'll just figure out who it could be.
Yeah,
as long as you know.
probably.
Here's the thing as well. Is like it's. And this was my speculation. I always have to qualify these because people might think I actually know something about this, and I'm like subtly confirming something, but it's just not. I'm speculating here, and what my speculation is that Blizzard will still have overall control on a lot of things. So it's not like some third party comes in and just changes everything. You know, and it's just like deletes a franchise or something, or like I don't know, just does something crazy and just
moves
like
us back to 66.
Moves us back to 66. Just something that's not going to happen. A third party, they're not going to have that much power. They're just going to run the operations, but Blizzard still dictate like how the overall thing goes and everything else. It's just in terms of like I don't know, admin work, maybe observers, and the observers could be as easy as you just plug and play, copy paste, and hire the Overwatch League observers into the third party. That would be the I think the correct thing to do, and I hope that's what they do. Sean Miller is still going to be the commissioner anyway. That means you got people like Sean still in charge. John Specs is still head of commercial. Like you know, there's still people in the chain of command in Blizzard who you can trust, who really know what they're doing. Especially guys like John Spector, that you know, Overwatch League is definitely part of the commercial side of things. So at the end of the day, I think buck stops there, at least from my perspective. So John ain't gonna let anything bad happen. I can only imagine, unless this third party like does some things poorly and just from an execution standpoint fails to execute and makes mistakes there. That's the only way I see it going badly. But from like a more creative and leadership stance and a more macro view of like how things work, that's not going to be the responsibility of the third party at all, speculatively. From my perspective.
I think my only like addition there, in which we kind of went over last show, was the opportunity for more. Like logistically, I think it's probably maybe there'll be some growing pains at the start, but I feel like, you know, I think there are a few different companies that could probably slot right in and do fine, you know, operating the league. But it's, you know, the relationship there and possibly bringing in some, you know, intelligent and super creative people to help, you know, better market the league, to help produce more content, to be a little bit more than just logistics partners and actually, you know, produce a unique product that, you know, we haven't gotten just yet.
And also there's the live side, because, you know, you were talking about esports engine specifically, you know, in terms of handling logistics. I mean, you also have to consider that's a pretty big part of the job as well. If we're talking about LANs, if we're talking about live events, esports engine for Call of Duty League literally executed their kickoff event, which I had some fun time watching. So having a third party come in even just for that is a pretty big deal, because you might need a bit of help to get live events underway. And the idea and the hope is that we can have live events this year, and that's not even me, like, you know, again, I don't know that if we are or not, but just looking at last year, like we were supposed to have LANs last year. We're supposed to have the whole playoffs and finals in Dallas. Well, we had China, we had the events in China, but I'm talking about like for everybody, for overall, like a global playoffs. Like instead of those Hawaii events, like the stage finals, like, oh cool, we did it in Hawaii, which is a nice compromise. But we were supposed to have playoffs in Dallas and then the grand final in LA, and that never happened. So we were planning to go back to LAN even last year. So realistically, if that plan continues, we should be on LAN in some degree this year. I mean, Call of Duty is, right? So, and I mean, to be fair, Call of Duty is like all NA, and they're all in North America anyway, and it gets difficult when you have to include APAC, but who knows? Maybe NA does something cool. But the idea is to eventually go back to LAN, so having a third party on board makes a lot of sense in that regard.
Agreed.
All right. Any thoughts?
I feel educated.
I hope people do. I hope people listen to these episodes and feel educated, especially about anime. And
get
I
to
also
that,
want
don't
people to
worry.
know. I also want people to know that once Attack on Titan finishes, because I don't watch any other anime, I don't know if this anime thing really will continue or not. Just because I don't really partake outside
Do you
of.
want it to continue? Because we definitely could continue.
Oh
it.
yeah,
I don't. I don't watch
there-
any other anime though. So
Oh,
that's the
dude,
problem.
you don't worry about it. We can
So,
get you hooked up if you like this. We get you the hookup, man. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, this is where I
You're going
progress
down
from.
a dark, dangerous path.
I progress from soft drugs to hard drugs is what you're trying to get me to do. Let's talk about these potential leaks for Overwatch 2. I say potential. You have to take these things with a grain of salt. Everyone's like kind of reporting them. I don't know if this is just like some Chinese whispers where one person was like, "Oh, I don't know," and then somehow that gains traction, and then eventually Dexoto reports on it, and now it's like a thing.
Yeah.
When it could have just started from like one guy shit talking. I don't know. It's really hard to consider. But we here's what we do know. We know the content creators had some sort of meeting last year now, I believe. We still don't really know the contents of that meeting. We assume and speculate that it could be beta related, or it could be. It's definitely Overwatch 2 related. So
one of them said they paid $15 on Wi-Fi to tweet out that it was a good meeting. So on Wi-Fi airplane. So like, I mean, we're getting either like really good stuff or hard trolled.
As far as I'm aware, it's not a troll. I've done my own research internally. I still don't know what it is, but I've done enough research internally to know it's not a troll. In terms of like approaching the actual content creators and the big ones as well to like really talk about it, and not in a way where I'm like, yo, tell me what it is, because I don't want to force anyone to break the NDA, and nor do I expect them to break the NDA for me. So that we haven't crossed a line where Yiska's in a different world, but we haven't crossed a line where someone's actually told me exactly what it is. But what I really got out was that they're not joking; it is actually serious, right? So it is serious. So
hopefully,
I speculate it's got something to do with the beta. I mean, you think about what would content creators get excited about? Something that probably has direct returns for them, or like direct impact to them, and something to do with the beta ticks that box very easily. So we also had that Metro thing as well, and I mean, take it with a grain of salt. Some people are like, you can't trust Metro at all, and other people are like, well, Metro's got some stuff right, and he did. Metro got Overwatch 2, generally speaking. He said 2023, people laughed at it, but then the whole Overwatch 2 delayed again, and then people were like, oh shit, maybe Metro was right. Who knows? And the Metro just said recently, I'm trying to paraphrase here, because I did watch the clip, and he's saying there's something about access to Overwatch 2, but he's not talking about the Overwatch League. So he's talking about like a public access to Overwatch 2, right? Yeah. So I think that is where. So actually, that's probably where it does originate, because I mentioned the start of this topic. It's like somebody said something, and then some Chinese whispers happened, and then a journalist wrote an article about it, or several wrote an article about it. And now we get to this point. I think it started from that Metro comment.
Yeah, I think that's where it starts. But am I wrong in misremembering the architecture and how one of the more recent patches was rolled out, that like the way that they labeled the patch?
Oh, yeah.
Like
there's something in the client that they wrote Overwatch 2, right? Like it's in the client now. Or
it's not necessarily Overwatch 2, but like it's denoting that like there's another class to the game.
Yes,
the game's patch.
It was like a 2.0 class patch.
Correct. Yeah. So like there's more weight to these like stirrings of, okay, we have Mike Ybarra coming out and saying, oh, there's going to be some WoW and Overwatch stuff coming soon. I mean, it was a week ago or some time ago. So like that's still kind of in the wings. You have more stirrings coming around, with Metro talking about maybe there's an open beta, or at least insinuating as much. And then now you have like this patch architecture change where it's like, okay, like maybe there's some serious like meat and potatoes also, here that we might be able to get.
At the end of the clip of Metro, he also did say, like, wouldn't it be fun if one day you woke up and Overwatch 2 was just in the client? He said that.
I mean, that'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be pretty nice.
And it
that's what's supposed to happen, right? For PvP players.
It feels like that's not a throwaway comment, is my other point. It feels like he was almost like you know, not leaking, but like sneakily just like
Yeah.
dropping
Wouldn't it be
something.
cool,
Maybe
guys?
maybe it was a troll comment, but for some reason I chose to read. I chose to read between the lines on that one. I'm like, wait a minute, did he just say something?
Am I taking crazy pills thinking like none of this is novel or like that's surprising?
What do you mean?
I think it's surprising if you like cynically thought that like there was like it was going to be like a closed beta, only Owl was going to get it, nobody was going to test it. Like I don't know that world is even still off the table.
I mean, I'm not sure what the insinuation generally is, but like the fact that Overwatch 2 will at some point pop up in your client is like, of course that's going to happen.
Sure.
Like we're
Just
getting
randomly.
something this year. Of course that was going to happen. Like I don't know why everyone's going nuts and thinks like I would, if I look at that information, my content brain wouldn't go, oh, I have to write an article about this. It seems like such a fucking nothing burger.
Because you're not a sellout, Yiska.
You're not a shill.
You have
Bro.
you have too much integrity for this industry.
I mean, I think I agree, but it's also like there's so much that could go wrong that like if we were to get like an open beta, I think that's already a win, is it not? Like that was never like assumed.
Eventually it's assumed. Like
Well, yeah, a year from now it's assumed, but we don't even know if we're gonna exist a year from now.
No, okay. It is assumed that we get like, I don't know, if you asked me like probably in the deepest depression phase of Overwatch, like sometime fucking in December or November or whatever. Like, are we going to get a beta of Overwatch 2 that at some point will be accessible to the public in 2022? I would have absolutely said yes. None of this is interesting.
Obviously, at some point, right? The issue is that there's signals and signs and there's smoke to say that it's coming soon, not at some point.
I mean, define soon, bro. Like, even if he literally talks to the fucking head of the studio, like, those guys probably don't have a great timeline with absolute accuracy that, like, Riot Games has or some shit.
Obviously,
obviously
that's not the case.
Right.
But it's better than in 2023.
Which nobody should assume.
Well, if you're assuming that at some point that we'll get a beta.
No,
right?
At some point in 2022.
Okay, that answers a little bit more of my question.
Bro, even Jason Schreier was absolutely out of line for his comment on Twitter. Like, that shit was brain dead as hell. Like, to the point where, like, even the community manager had to go, like, actually, this pisses me off. Why the fuck is this a thing? Like,
yeah, that was more of the, like, nobody said it was going to be 2023. Like, that's not confirmed. We don't know.
I don't know, maybe I can't tell if I'm just parsing information differently or if I for some reason have other knowledge that just like strongly inclines me towards a particular situation. But I find myself so often going like, bro, why the fuck are we freaking out about this?
Because there's so much that, like, I think everybody's so worried that it could go wrong so poorly, or like this could be fumbled so nastily that, like, even just it
still can hope. Though. Like, I'm, dude.
Oh, for sure it can.
I can see what, like, this is already my fucking, like, copium scenario, what is happening right now. Like, everyone was like, oh yeah, we're getting it in 2021, right? That was like when I initially found that out, I was like, oh my fucking God, this sucks, right?
Yeah.
This caught me out of left field initially, right? When I was talking to people late 2020 about this. But now, I don't know, like,
if you feel like if you feel like this is your copium take, then no, I don't think you're parsing information weird. I think this is you're on a different you're on the same spectrum, but like your slider's a little bit lower than everybody else's. Everybody else is just like big copium. We want Overwatch to be back in like the big IP powerhouse that it once was, and they're huffing big gas cans where you're just like, you know, taking whip hits every once in a while.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just
I'm high on Molly.
Yeah, and then I also expect like whatever it is that the content creators were told, I guarantee you their hype is also not warranted. Like if you told me the same information, if I was in that meeting,
Well,
yeah, but you're a curmudgeon.
I'm like,
you're not a content creator. I think
95% sure I would be showing that. Well, you better. You fucking better. Like, oh man.
That's why they don't tell you.
I mean, you have content creators who like were legitimately shitting on the game and have a huge negativity to the game that just like did a 180. I just think like,
true.
I don't know, if you were there, you'd have a different opinion because your interests and your values in terms of where your bottom line is potentially different in terms of what you're looking for.
Agreed.
Then, but like, dude, if it's like, so I have great news for all of us. Yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
I got a voucher for infinite fellatio just for myself. Well, how does that?
Dog you, dude.
How does
That's
that
it.
relate to
Congrats.
me? I'm so hyped, guys. This is the best. Like, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. I don't care like what it does to you, motherfucker. And then if the game like if we get fucking breadcrumbs of content this year, yes, this was assumed. Why are you hyped about this shit? Like,
yeah, somebody leave a comment down below if you think Yiska's the type of motherfucker to get a rib removed.
How do I
Multiple ribs. Multiple.
Y'all gonna...
He's got to make that as easy as possible, dude, on demand. Just fold over like a lawn chair and just grapefruit himself.
That sounds like that sounds like they would do something bad for your organs. Just saying. Yeah, man. You gotta let me know where you get one of those vouchers from. Just asking for a friend. All right. So
step 1, become an Overwatch content creator. Apparently.
I'm on my way. I'm turning my stream right after this. Then.
Oh, no.
So I think we all are pretty much unanimous that having a beta earlier would be better. Like the earlier we get a beta. When I say a beta, I'm talking like people that are not professional players can play this beta. So just general people in the public, and also not content creators. So again, just normal people can just play this beta. The earlier the better. However, I've also said that the game needs to be at a very polished state because unfortunately, the way people in the public react to a beta is they don't treat it like a beta; they treat it like a final product.
Yes. Even
if you tell them it's a beta, their brains don't acknowledge it's a beta.
Yeah.
And even if people like acknowledge it's a beta, it's like, yes, I'm playing a beta. Their subconscious does not acknowledge that's a beta. So they still you'll give it to the public, they'll play it, and unless it's polished as fuck, you're gonna see these stupid comments on battle.net forums again, like, oh my god, Overwatch 2 sucks. Overwatch 2 is such a bad game. I'm like, guys, you're not even playing the real game.
Yeah.
It's a fucking beta.
Yeah.
You just don't even know what a beta means. So that's why I'm like, I get very hesitant when I hear this kind of news about a beta coming. News being like speculative news, because I'm like, are we that polished yet? Are we at the point where we're polished enough to go open? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Feels too early.
Yeah.
No. I don't know where the development is, but based on all the rumors of where it has been and the fact that the Overwatch League finals build wasn't that far off from where the internal build was, I'm like, Jesus Christ, the game's not ready, guys.
Yeah.
It's pretty far away.
No, as we said, like, we got to decide what kind of shit sandwich we want to bite into. Not really. Like, I don't know, I'm being called. I don't know who that is. Like, which shit sandwich we got to bite into. But, like, wait, sorry. I don't know who is calling.
Oh, your
me.
rib surgeon, you'll call him back.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I want from the beta? Slap the beta down, give me
a sec.
Sojourn, give me Junker Queen, and give me one of the other mech pilots.
No, you're not getting a mech pilot. You're getting a fox girl, okay? You're getting exactly what you want. You're getting a cute anime girl with a fucking crazy chakram from Kanazaka, okay? You're getting your new main Kenobi. Congratulations.
I think Diva was meant to be the anime girl.
Well, you're getting another one.
There's a fox girl? What?
Yeah,
What are you
the
talking about?
Kanazaka fox girl. Look it up. YouTube comments, Reddit, let them know.
Kanazaka.
I'm gonna. Yeah, what? Hold on.
There was a
Kanazaka,
big
Fox Girl. Hold on.
Yes.
Kanazaka, Fox Girl, safe search off. What do we get? What do we get?
From the minor deep dive.
Okay, the first thing I see is like a YouTuber's thumbnail, and they just have a female Genji. That's it.
Yeah, I see that same thing.
That's literally what it is.
There was a
And the other one is like a person wearing like a fox hood. Actually,
Yeah,
kind of
it's a
disturbing.
concept.
It looks like you skinned a fox and just wore it on your face.
It's a Reddit concept called
yes.
Yoka. Yeah, okay, no, it's gonna be so like give me Sojourn.
Yeah, I mean we already know Sojourn.
But where I'm talking about like dropping the game, like the beta.
Right.
I think like everyone would nut if you drop the beta with Sojourn, you drop it with Junker Queen, and you drop it Sojourn at the very least. Sojourn I think should probably be in beta, like with the beta because we've seen her play tested already. So like, give me the
She looks ready compared to we don't compare to nothing really because we don't
compared to what else. Yeah, we don't got other characters.
We actually have nothing to compare it to, so I guess it's just Sojourn that looks ready.
So give me
the only one announced.
Give me my Sojourn DPS, Junker Queen DPS, tank. Actually tank, yeah, sure, tank, and then a support. Mecha support. The mecha support. There we go. Done. Farm all the money you want, Blizzard, after that.
Yeah.
That would be the dream. But I don't know. I mean, if they have a surprise like that, this would be the time to like just plonk it on us.
I think that would be a very hefty surprise to say, look, like we have our new heroes ready. Here's a beta date. See you in a couple months.
It would
Here's a map, like just if
no maps. No maps.
Yeah, no maps.
No maps.
No, what about like another free for all map? There we go.
No. Please God.
It will probably be a PvP only beta. It seems like the other rumor that was spun around was that development on PvE was kind of paused, so they can. Well, I don't know about pause, but it was like basically in terms of priority for development time, they were heavily prioritizing PvP because that needs to be ready for the Overwatch.
I wonder what it would have been like if they.
I'm okay with that.
I wonder what it would have been like though if they just got rid of PvE. Like I mean, just like like from the get, just make so you make Overwatch 2 like first and like 5v5 and then you just like do PvE later because PvE
I think if I'm understanding you, I think that's probably what's going on now to like Avril's point,
but
where like they've shifted so many resources over and they've already delayed Overwatch 2.
I mean, just don't even like literally DLC the PvE. Like make Overwatch 2.
We probably already have a beta.
The people will be so angry because then it makes Overwatch 2 look like even a more kind of redundant sequel. Like at that point, I mean, you're just reworking Overwatch 1. You're like, what is even the point like this? If you're gonna have a sequel, you need some like content. You need to actually be dropping some stuff for people to consider a sequel. Or 2 people have left. I might just walk off as well. I'm gonna be honest with you.
I think there's enough like
my cat is trying to die, so I don't know what she's doing.
Hey, sometimes you got to step in, being a hero, living up to Mercy.
She's like 6 months old and she's almost strangling herself on boxes.
Oh, lovely.
It's like
there's enough of a world that I think like you don't need. I think if you message differently as Activision Blizzard, the public doesn't need to know exactly what's going on. I think you can shift some marketing around PvE. It's a little bit different. Obviously, it's a hypothetical. If that was the case in that hypothetical, playing within it, then yeah, I think we already probably have a beta. I think we're already playing Overwatch 2 PvP. It's already integrated into the client. We're already, testing out these new heroes. We're already testing out push. We're probably already hating push. Let's face it, guys. I'm sorry to, break it to you. You're probably going to hate push.
It's not, but is
why?
It's not 2CP, but
are we going to hate it more than 2CP?
No.
What's wrong with push? Why are you going to hate push?
I think there's a lot of like, I mean, I don't know if you want to get into this tangent. No, not at all. Huh? I think there's a lot of like dead weight, especially when you have like long stretches of like robot push. The robot doesn't teleport back to like a neutral state. Like there's a lot of just like really, really like the fights that you like have to regain like some positive pressure with the robot pushing your barrier feels really shitty.
Can I just say, I think the goal of push is not to finish the map. I think if you can finish the map,
Yeah,
it's a really one-sided game. I think the goal of push is that it's a tug of war game that is just more about like, well, how far can I tug the thing towards my side rather than I will throw the other team into the pit of death.
Yes.
A la Squid Game. Like I don't think that's what the point is. So as long as the way that interacts in the game in terms of like back and forth interaction and the amount of fights you get to is good, it's okay. I think, you know, if there's a problem, you can speed up how fast the robot runs.
You have to. I think you have to.
Between the two sides of the map. Maybe that's something you got to address. But I don't mind if there's one fight that takes, for example, you win a fight, you start pushing the robot back, and you have to engage in another fight to continue pushing your own robot back. I don't think that's the worst thing.
It's not the worst. Don't get me wrong. I think it's just going to feel really frustrating for the players and even the viewers to go like, it to me, push is going to feel like you make a drive and then there's a rubber band where the enemy team like ends up just like walleting you and then like gets their turn on the robot and either just like flounders like hysterically or like they make their drive and like that's it and the game's over. Like there's just one big push. I think the way that like the tempo of like the rhythm of that like game mode plays out, at least in my mind, again, like what the fuck do I know? Like it only serves to like emphasize how snowbally Overwatch is. However, we don't know what Overwatch 2 looks like. We don't know, you know, what some of these reworks entail. Maybe it's less snowbally, maybe it's more. And I don't think it does a good job at like breaking apart the snowball.
I think the concept of push is really good.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I think you have to tweak it.
I'm still optimistic.
Yeah, it's better than 2CP.
And totally.
Because the reason it's better than 2CP is because Overwatch fundamentally as a game, even for Overwatch 2, requires that something else within the game dictates the pacing of the objective such that you can't just have like the jarriness of being able to instantly double cap and just finish the game in a minute and a half.
Yeah.
Or I guess just like not even be able to touch B, but I mean technically speak. Well, yeah, I guess in a push, if you lose hard, the other team just pushes to the end and wins. So I don't know. Basically, you want a situation where something in the game dictates how fast you can move around the map and where the objective is. So you don't just like instantly blitz through and finish the map.
I'd also rather have that than just like 5-minute holds on like Anubis second, right? Where it's just like I want to claw my eyes out.
It's that feeling that I think you're going to get if this robot like does not sprint to your barrier. Like I would even and I hate saying this because I think that robot's fucking cute and is like a merch machine. I think you just take him out. I think you just make it like another payload, like an alteration of payload.
Well, yeah, but then nothing's pushing it.
You push it with your collective friendship energy. I don't know. Figure it out.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, Joe.
I don't think so either.
I think they're sticking with the robot. I'm going to be real with you.
Cope.
So, all right. Well, Yiska's going to do his thing.
HelloFresh is a.
He's got a fun delivery. So
sponsored by HelloFresh.
Yeah.
We had some more departures. I don't know if this is like a really big topic. Obviously, you know, we'll address the fact that there's been some more departures in Overwatch, in Blizzard rather. Tracy Kennedy is probably the big one because she was so vocal.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I got her name right.
Big champion of Activision Blizzard for sure.
Yeah, aka Dog Spinster. That's her on Twitter. So and it's funny, the timeline works where she made the extremely forward statement about Bobby Kotick stepping in and kind of, what would be the right word, intervening in the progress of Overwatch 2's development by apparently throwing in like really random and pointless projects. That was exactly 2 weeks before her announcement of like, oh, this is my last day. So like on the day she handed in her 2 weeks notice, she like went on Twitter and just like, here it is. I'm going to send this tweet now. And then, well, she's already out of there anyway, but all the best. She was a great voice within the team that I think the wider public, we wouldn't have gotten access to, you know, knowledge of stuff happening inside if it wasn't for I guess I could say the courage of Tracy to just speak out and not have the fear to do so. So I mean, there's that. Arnold Sang as well as resigned. I think, I mean, obviously for very different reasons. Arnold is he's on the crypto bus now, and then Matt Mercel, who was, you probably know, Statsman for Overwatch League, is gone. Not too sure where he's headed off just yet, but provided some good resources for the league and to the broadcast and to the casters, including me last year. So I appreciated his work. Did I miss anybody? There might have been another one as well. But
yeah,
I mean,
you
a
don't
bunch of
want
people.
departures. It's not a good thing.
Ideally not, but I mean, as long as people can actually, new people come in. What you don't want is a situation where everyone just leaves and there's no replacements.
Totally.
And there's still
That's
good
what you don't
people
want.
that are there. So
Arnold Sang is actually a big one. Arnold Sang is a huge one because he was the former character art director for Overwatch, and that's a big role because a lot of the way, I don't know if you guys remember back in the day, Overwatch's announcement. This is before the game was even available to play by anybody. This was like 2014 kind of announcements. Arnold Sang was there, and he was next to a whole bunch of people, Jeff included, and they were talking about how they were taking Arnold's concepts and that became the art direction for Overwatch, generally speaking, in terms of how the heroes look and all that kind of stuff. So we can attribute basically the entire art style and the artistic world and design of Overwatch to Arnold and the rest of the team around him, but Arnold specifically, where his character designs, kind of led the entire direction of how Overwatch was going to be artistically. It's a huge role.
Yep.
That's
huge influence.
That's a big loss. It's not to say that there aren't like other fantastic artists that can, take that and evolve it for Overwatch 2, but like Gavril's saying, like I remember seeing panels where, I believe it was Arnold and Jeff like on stage, reviewing or like alpha footage for the game and talking about the art direction, talking about the development process of the game. Like he was very much a cabinet member of that, front facing staff. So it's it sucks to see him go. But the show
freaking
kind of must go on.
NFTs, man. God dang it. Ruining everything. I'm gonna get just, if there's any crypto bros in chat, just know that I own some Ethereum, so I'm on your side.
I will fund you. I will funge the hell out of you. Don't worry about it.
You're gonna funge Arnold's non-fungible tokens?
When I get around to it, they will be very fungible.
I'm gonna screenshot. I'm gonna screenshot all of it.
I'm afraid your tokens will be quite fungible when I get to them.
I will fund your blockchain.
So that aside, hope everyone that moved on gets to have great success to wherever they're going on towards, and the rest of the team at Team 4 get to, be able to find suitable replacements and continue on with their work as well. JJANGGU also retired. I believe he's going to the military. And he'd only been in the team for, how old is he? He's only been in the league for an entire year. Just the 1 year.
He was in Talon before, correct? Was that where he was?
Yeah, but he was basically a rookie in the league.
Yeah.
And then 1 year again, play later.
Fire at the start.
He's gone. He was a huge name at the start of Houston. Then partway through, gets benched. He's only 21 as well. He's not even like a 27 Yu Jae-hong. I guess I should probably go to the military now. I think Yu Jae-hong actually already went to the military. But the point is, it's not one of those like really much older pro players. It's like, man, I really can't delay the military any longer. I kind of have to go now. So it's also not a bad year to take a break. It is and it's not. Like if you get another I think it might have been a case where speculatively had another team reached out and said, would you like to play for us for a year? He might have signed on and stayed. But if he's not getting any offers and he has no idea what tier 2 is going to look like with this transition, a pretty safe bet would be just be like, well, might as well do my military, see what happens. Maybe I come out of military. Overwatch is still really good, and I just play again.
Is that like a so usually when I hear about military training, it's usually like the end of your career a lot of the time.
Pretty
At least
much, yeah.
for-
Very rarely
Well,
do
you'd
players
be-
kind of come back from it.
You'd have to come back and grind. You'd be behind.
Yeah.
You'd be behind. You have to come back and catch up. So,
'Cause I
depending
know,
on
like,
your level of
yeah.
talent, maybe you. I haven't really heard of. To be fair, I actually haven't heard of many Korean players who retire from military and actually make a strong comeback. Usually that never doesn't happen. And usually the reason that doesn't happen is because the new younger players coming
Yep.
through
Yeah.
who are like 15 right now,
Yeah.
and in 3 years' time, when you're out of the military and those 15-year-olds are now 18, you're
Mm.
competing with some like hardcore rookies that are just way better than you.
The only to kind of circle back to JJANGGU and that kind of lunatic high core, I believe, if memory serves me, they were coming out as Overwatch was being released. So
Yeah.
they were like, okay, cool. We were
Okay.
playing Sudden Attack. We were playing like all these kind of like, you know, mid-tier shooters and doing really well.
They got it
Like,
on the
what are we going to
console.
play? They got in very early. You know, I think that
Right.
the timelines just kind of lined up really nicely.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's generally pretty
Yeah.
hard. Also, just like because you're through basic and whatever, like shift in, like it's a really hardcore experience to go through basic and then also just like military life and differences of like really points of view that seems fairly incompatible with pro gaming life. So
I'm just
Come
sad.
back, you're like a Vietnam War vet. Your hand is shaking, with the cigarette in your mouth, like, oh, you're just like completely
Seen some shit.
shaken apart.
I'm
Yeah,
so
you've
sad.
seen some shit.
Con didn't win Worlds this year and had to go retire. I was very sad.
Yeah.
As I like sprinkle my little bit of League into this podcast.
Yeah,
for all the
Kenobi's talking
podcasts.
about League of Legends for the people that don't know.
Yeah.
But that being said, I'm happy that
Isn't
EWG
that
won.
fake? A fella still doing all right for himself.
What's this get off
Yeah.
the fence thing that you're
And he,
Hey, how about you don't worry about it, man?
okay.
How about you don't worry about that?
I looked at it. I was like, we've reviewed Chinese. Like, there's a lot missing in between Chinese teams and get off the fence. When do we get to that?
he like Joe's got a thing there. Kenobi's snooping. All right, we got to move on to some other thing now. All right, do we spend the last hour talking about last hour? We've nearly hit fucking 3 hours here. Do we spend the tiniest amount of time now? Tiny being very subjective, talking about the big boy that everyone's been waiting for. I like that we baited everyone. We're like, if you're currently sitting here on the podcast like 2 hours later, like, man, they haven't started. Well, how come we haven't talked about Attack on Titan yet? Don't they normally start with that? Is now when we do that, or do we do
get off the fence first?
get off the fence first?
Yeah, let me
Okay,
pose a
good.
quick, fan question for Get Off the Fence,
All right,
featuring
first.
Mr. Nosy Pants over here. One question for the three of you from our lovely patrons. If you would like to also submit a question for Get Off the Fence, you can go over to patreon.com/tacticalcrouch. Any level of patronage will get you permission to come into our Discord, drop a question. I'll add it to my magical list, and one of these days we will get around to it, I promise. So with 3 people on board, we're gonna have to probably slim down the questions. Obviously, we do want to get to some anime stuff, as the boys have mentioned. Exactly. And because Kenobi sang that godforsaken song, you're gonna pop our cherry with this question from Peace Camper, our lovely patron. Kenobi, get off the fence. Which post-release heroes and maps made the game better, worse, or irrelevant? Maybe even differentiate between casual play, competitive play, and possible viewing experience.
Wait, hold on.
Which post-release heroes
Uh-huh.
and maps made the game better, or worse, or just were irrelevant?
Oh, Brig broke the game.
Okay.
It just completely.
So Brig made the game better, right? Is that where you're going?
I really loved Goats, and I think that she was a very key component to that being a very prevalent part of the game. I think on release she was absolutely busted. I think it's in terms of designing the character the way she was on release. I think it is very much a look at how to have an idea of like dive is strong. We need to counter dive and then go 180 degrees the other way and just be like, what if we just made dive like irrelevant because this character exists, right? So I think that she really kind of fumbled the way that the meta of the game was played for quite a bit. And with all the reworks that she had, it kind of reminds me of like Rise, where you just had to like continuously just change her and continuously fix her. I think she made the game worse to an extent.
Okay.
And then I think the current place that she's at now, she's fine. But
So
I think she did make the game worse on release.
which post-release hero would you say made the game better?
I'm trying to think of the post-release heroes because we.
So like our first release was Ana, right?
Yeah, our first.
Was our first
Ana's,
new.
Ana's the one. Ana, I think, was great. I think Ana is a very skill-based champ, which I do usually like. Hero that I do.
We all know
really
what you
like.
mean.
Yeah. I do like the
You
amount
really
of
are a
skill
League of Legends guy.
I think I think just the amount of like playmaking you can make with that character also really. I think it changed the way of how we like viewed some certain points of like the game in terms of the playmaking that could be made from the support position. Like everyone remembers, big sleep darts, right? Everyone remembers Genji blades, stuff like that. It made the game a lot more fun and dynamic for me when I see it. So she made the game better. In terms of, do I have to answer for irrelevant too?
I think everybody's answer is Orisa, but if you'd like to.
Yeah. That was it. Yeah, it's Orisa.
Fair enough. All right, AVRL. Any post-release heroes made the game better, worse? So you also can answer on maps. That was also something that Peace Camper did throw in there.
I quite like Eichenwalder as a map.
Okay.
Personally, that was a good addition.
Anything specific about it that like kind of tickles you? Like,
there's a lot of variety on the map in terms of how it's designed and how it moves across. I especially think the design of B is quite nice. Of how the layout is, the sort of high ground, low ground kind of deal, the bridge as well. And then when you get towards the bridge, you suddenly have an attacking path open that you can have a shortcut over. So it's the fact that that shortcut even exists in the first place, but it's only like viable at a certain stage, lots of fun stuff that you can do on that map. And I think A is maybe the only problematic part of the map. I think C is I think people will say that C can be a bit of an issue, but C is such a big change from the rest of the map as well that it just forces you to have versatility throughout a single setting on a map rather than just be like a one-trick team on a specific, composition. So I don't know if that's like the best. My number one. I just think Blizzard World is reasonable as well. That was a good addition. Havana, even though Havana is like super hard to finish, I think Havana A is actually reasonably fun and creative. What else? Rialto is nice, but it's another map that's just so hard to finish, and maybe not.
Agreed.
Heroes. I actually feel like BAP.
Okay.
This is quite controversial, actually. Very controversial, because everyone will say, Immortality Field, such broken ability. It kind of is, and it needs to be addressed. But generally speaking, I think BAP is the closest we've had to like an Ana style support release since the start of the game. Because beyond that, we've had Brig, which has caused a lot of problems. Moira, which is just resident sleeper, man. Like, no one wants that. So BAP was the first, like, this is like a really high skill based support hero like Ana that we saw. Even though I'll concede that Mortality Field is problematic. I also think that damage boosting is problematic as well, but since it's on an ultimate, it's a little less egregious for me. And it's obviously the best post-release hero that's been released, generally speaking. I wanted to say something like Echo, because I think Echo's flashy and unique in design, but at the same time, focusing beam is an issue in the game because of how bursty it is. I enjoy watching Doomfist. I think Doomfist gameplay is fun to watch, but I know it causes a lot of problems in game in terms of playing against Doomfist. It's not a good experience. Also, huge burst damage again, not fun to play against. Ashe has been pretty decent, actually. I think Ball does a good job of changing what the identity of Overwatch is in terms of how heroes function, because Ball is such an out-of-the-box hero design that not only did the developers in Team 4 not even believe that this concept could work, but
Mhm.
somehow they executed it to a way where I see this, I'm like, there's no way this can be in the game. And then I look at this and I'm like, this is one of the most creative, well thought out, and in a way balanced designs as well. I mean, Ball's had a lot of changes as well in terms of X or Y things it can and can't do, but
Mhm.
Ball really changed up how Overwatch was in terms of, if you think about Overwatch as like a 2D game, you don't, but like hypothetically, if you thought about a 2D game, Ball just dropped this new dimension of gameplay that you didn't even think was possible in what is meant to be an FPS game, right? So
Right. Agreed. Yiska, any post-release heroes or maps that you quite fancy or quite hate?
also,
If-
Moira is the most
There you go.
underwhelming release.
There you go.
That's what I'll say.
Okay, thank fuck that someone at least said something negative, so I don't have to be the only person that is just goes off. Like, Moira is absolutely snooze, and the worst part about her is that she's really effective, especially like at mid-range skill levels. Like, oh my god, dude, no shame here, but like, playing that hero is just freelo for the most part, especially during certain parts of her kit, right? Like when tracking was very forgiving, and really don't like Moira. Are there any? I mean, in terms of maps, Jesus Christ, Paris was atrocious of a map. It's not even really worth pointing out. I generally hate almost every new map coming in just by virtue of like making me play less of the maps I like, like King's Row, or even like quite like Numbani.
Yo, bless up on King's Row, dude. What a fantastic map. Love it.
Goated with the sauce, I hear.
Other than that, I think my most played hero overall, at least in the last couple of years, has been Ashe. I quite like Ashe.
Okay.
I think that's fun hero design. Initially, it wasn't too high on Bob, but now I think it's a fine ability. I think Echo is great, like just from a skill set. I think it takes a lot to be good at her.
Yeah.
I think there's some shit gameplay that she produces, especially like the double quadruple diva bomb garbage.
Yeah.
That's really annoying, but otherwise, like, it's pretty sweet. Like, honestly, most of the new heroes we got are pretty decent. Like, even Sigma, most of the Sigma metas were pretty fun to watch, even though he doesn't really have pop-off moments other than
You like Fat Rocks?
Fat Rocks and Eats.
Yeah.
His ult on release was fucking nuts.
True.
Whew, that shit was crazy.
Wrecking Ball, I definitely agree, especially because like Dive being my favorite archetype and him sort of like being the thing that brought it. I mean, yeah,
Evolved it maybe.
yeah. Sombra was mostly a shit show, I feel like. For a lot of her history, and they really didn't know where to take her because it's like such a weird concept to have invisibility in a game like this, right? And have it be effective as well.
Oh, trust me, it could have been worse. It could have been worse. She could have been. Oh, Blizzard could have easily have done some sort of like, you can shoot while invisible, and that, you know, there's so many ways invisibility could have been done worse.
Yeah. And then, I mean, I definitely echo like the point of like Ana being like really good introduction. I don't mind most of the payload and yeah, I think generally the payload maps I don't mind too much. The introductions of Ilios was a meme in the beginning. Like, I don't know. I feel like it was pretty balanced overall. Like, the game definitely got better through the introduction of new content. I would generally say that. But yeah, I think it's hard to cast a verdict on heroes that have changed so significantly as like Sombra and Break have over the years. I think generally that points towards there being problems and it being pretty bad for the game if things have to change this drastically. But then again, that is also true for something like Torbjorn, you know.
Sure.
So, yeah, that's probably my take on this.
All right. Hopefully, Peace Camper, that answers that question. And if anybody else would like to toss their question into the random hat that is my magical list, you can head on over to patreon.com/tacticalcrouch. Sub away, patronize us with your money, and we can get that question going. And yeah, so thank you if you are doing that. Thank you for the support. We love you. And send in those questions. All right, AVRL, rumble to you.
I bet.
Rumbling.
That intro is a banger, is it not? Yes,
it is. It is actually.
It is a banger. Thank you.
Where do we start? I mean, so we haven't talked about this for 2 episodes.
Right.
2 episodes. Yeah, two of our episodes. And 2 episodes have gone by. And I think 2 AOT episodes prior, I said something like, man, these next 2 are going to be wild in terms of the narrative. And it will explain everything. All the secrets will be out. And, everything in this universe will begin to make sense in terms of how it all is. And I feel like, was I kind of right? I mean, it probably creates some new questions, but for the most part, when I first read through this part of the manga, it was like, wow. So that's how it all is. Like, this is where we came from.
Definitely a high point for sure.
Yeah. I mean, Jesus Christ. Like, I knew it a little bit, right, from reading the manga. I didn't know the full extent. I feel like, I don't know, my memory was also spotty because I knew, like, that. I mean, are we just going all out spoiler at this point? Right.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're
no
here,
manga spoilers. No manga spoilers.
No manga spoilers.
Just anime.
Yeah.
Right.
Just anime.
Like, I knew
point.
that like, Eren wasn't dead, but when Sasha shot his head off. So I'm kind of confused as to no, not Sasha. What's her name?
Gabby.
Gabby shot
Sasha's your name.
Yes, true.
Sasha's the fucking potato girl who died.
By Gabby's name. Yeah, a hand, if you recall. But yeah, I mean, she just inherited. She inherited the name by killing her. It's sort of like how you inherit. But no, long story short, like, my memory was just spotty probably because, like, I remember that he didn't die, but I didn't particularly remember the rest. But yeah, like, Jesus Christ, the last 2 episodes were just like such a symphony of shit coming together, and then, like, I could literally feel my, like, neurons reconnecting and going like, oh my god, this motherfucker knew in 2019 when he kissed Historia's hand or shit like this.
Yep.
Oh man, that was so satisfying.
Can I ask you a question? And I need your live reaction if this isn't the case. Have you been paying attention to the titles of the episodes?
No, not at all.
Can you do me a favor and look up episodes 80, the latest episode's title, and look at the first episode's title? And I need a live reaction.
First
didn't know
of all of them?
Yes, the first ever episode of Attack on Titan, the anime.
Okay, let me see.
What's that title's name?
Popular.
Oh, you didn't see this, Yiska?
Well, I mean, it's been a while since the first episode.
And it's not something you typically pay attention to.
Yeah.
I would be looking for
2,000 years in the future.
Now look at episode's 80s title.
From you 2,000 years ago. Jesus Christ, dude. Wow. Fucking hell.
It's fucking everywhere.
The Historia hand thing, I think people still don't understand though. To an extent.
I think most of it,
I feel like you should now. I
Yeah.
feel like it was something that I had to convince some people about, the whole idea that time is.
We had this discussion about it, like Everett and I, like what kind of time travel it is, right?
Well,
and
time
like,
doesn't.
Yeah.
In the Attack on Titan universe, time doesn't like events are set in stone and they're unchangeable. Is how time works in Attack on Titan.
I mean, yes, but like without vision, Eren wouldn't have accomplished what he does, right?
No, yeah. So when he kisses, but he doesn't see when he kisses Historia's hand, he doesn't see like the entirety of like the future, right? He just sees bits and pieces of it.
No, he sees. This is how it works. It's very convoluted. He sees his father's memories, Grisha's memories, and he sees himself in Grisha's memories of what he did to Grisha. So he only sees what he showed Grisha in the future, because it goes in a big fucking circle.
Yeah.
If you remember from this episode, it was also in the manga as well. When they come out of paths, after going through Grisha's memories, Eren says to Zeke, "Thank you for taking me into our past. That was the only way he could influence and he could talk to his father and do all those things," right? So he, after kissing Historia's hands, he got it. He saw his father's memories, which included himself meddling with his father through time travel in the paths, and that's how that kind of thing works. So it's really messy in that regard.
But does he not see also like the future as well as like because he has
again, it's convoluted. Like he sees it because he's also there.
Yeah. Because he sees everything that he's part of.
Correct.
Another thing that was actually pretty cool is that in the scenes where he's time traveling back, I don't know if you guys know this. In the scenes where he's time traveling or whatever, the only scenes where where like Grisha can see Zeke are the scenes where Eren is standing through the point of view of seeing like Zeke.
Yep. Even though the idea of like him being able to touch Zeke is a little weird. I
don't know about touching. I think that's more like he's hugging air, but I don't know. That's how I read into it.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm like, he's literally just hugging the air.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. No,
I think that scene in particular, though, like to 79's point, like the scene immediately after Grisha kills like the royal like family or whatever.
Oh, where he asks Eren why he didn't show him everything.
Like the choreography or the direction of like him like just snapping around, like you really get like the visceral feeling of somebody like having a mental breakdown. Like the way that it's written obviously is great, but like just the way that it's shot is, I mean, that too, it's phenomenal. Like that's just creme de la creme, like peak art right there.
Yeah. And to the time travel point, it's like it's really easy to mess that shit up, right? To get the logic wrong, to be internally inconsistent, to erase all meaning of it. Where like, I mean, theoretically speaking, right? Let's say Eren was to look into his future through Grisha's eyes, therefore inform himself to change his actions to accomplish his goal. Then there would be a recursive argument until it wiggles so much that then eventually he will, given enough time, and time doesn't matter, right? He eventually arrives at the perfect solution for him, which technically is exactly what is happening right now, right?
I forgot to do this, so I need to do this really quick right now. But if you're still here, it's too late. But obviously, there's going to be spoilers here from the show. So if you haven't watched the last 2 episodes, you probably should. Well, if you're not caught up in the season, you probably shouldn't be listening to this right now, unless you don't care about spoilers. Also, if you don't care about Attack on Titan, I don't know why you're still here. Either,
what's happening?
There was meant to be a warning before we got into this. Be like,
kind of
here we go.
Right?
We're
going to the AOT stuff. You are gonna head into anime spoiler territory. You might not want to be here if you don't want to get spoiled. So, 10 minutes too late.
I mean, I kind of asked, right? Like I asked if we are now fully going into spoilers. I think that's fair enough. But I think also the mechanism that Zeke had to make this possible by the time travel is kind of cool, because he's like on multi levels he's now important, right? Like not just due to the royal blood connection, but also like someone else would have likely not used the founder in that way, you know? Now
he needed to be raised in like that specific way. Is kind of what you're saying.
Yeah. Now the question is, what is okay? Maybe this is an obvious one for you guys, but I didn't really pick up on it. What is the mechanism by which they meet Ymir?
Oh, like the coordinate shit?
Because why?
Right.
Well,
Why does he have like? Can they only go there when they touch, the brothers touch, and not when Eren touches like Historia? Because theoretically, he learns of all of that knowledge, and he could just sit there and go, "Wait a fucking second, I can go there. Oh, let's fucking go there."
Are we allowed to talk about?
I
don't remember.
I'm
if
still
this
not
gets
even sure.
explained
Yeah, I don't. I
in the
couldn't tell
manga
you.
Later.
I don't know that it does.
I
And
don't
if
know
it
that
did,
there's
it
an
didn't.
answer. I don't know that
Yeah.
there is an answer to that question
Okay.
I'm not sure.
because, like, yeah, I guess technically speaking, so yeah, why couldn't he go to paths through Historia, right?
Maybe it's because they didn't.
Did Historia like not want to?
No.
Maybe they didn't headbutt. That's what they got to do.
the headbutt unlocks it. The meeting of the minds. I feel like it's probably has something to do with like the
wait. He couldn't have known the Grisha. He couldn't have had that vision back, and he couldn't have impacted the past had Zeke not shown him. It had to be Zeke, which he goes to Ymir with. So Zeke,
Yeah. Oh, we already covered that yesterday. I already said that.
But the fact,
I
like,
think,
it
I
doesn't
think he's
work.
connecting it.
No, it doesn't work that he immediately goes to Ymir. That's the reason. And the mechanism doesn't work otherwise.
Yeah, because of the way the timeline works, he has to go through Zeke because Zeke would take him through the past to let him do that. Unless, like, in theory, so you hypothetically speaking, could you have a situation where he butts heads with Historia and they just go in the past together? I don't know. Like that sounds like,
but
really
it's not in his hand.
Should be able to do what Zeke does.
Yeah.
I mean, it would change the timeline, and in this story, you can't change the timeline because it's already been set in stone. But
yeah,
I'm just saying, in theory, I don't see how, because you're right, I don't see how Historia is really that different from Zeke in terms of access to royal blood. Like, he could have traveled to the paths with Historia and just maybe done the same thing, but that's obviously not how the timeline goes. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as he touches her, he sees that mechanism, and I mean, there's just like a probability if she does do it or not. It's less likely because they don't have shared history and don't need to explore anything.
Yeah.
So like, she would need to do it, I think, because that, like, she needs to command Ymir to do that with them, I guess. I also don't really understand why, like, by what metric did he... Okay, I guess this is a future spoiler, but, like, why does Eren suddenly have control of Ymir, even though he is not the royal blood?
She chose him.
Yeah, he gave her a big old hug.
Yeah.
No
So
one gave her a big old hug.
the way so this is I'm just looking into what was shown. Like, the way it's supposed to work is Zeke commands Zeke. This is the other thing they don't really explain. Zeke just kind of hand waves. He says, "Oh yeah, I figured out how to hand wave away the whole indoctrination thing. I'm just special." Like, we don't even know how the hell that happened, and Zeke's just like, "Yeah, I just did it." And I'm like, "All right, we just have to believe him, I guess."
Mm-hmm.
So he can command Ymir and says, "Yeah, Ymir, do this." She goes to the paths and just changes everything and does it all, right? Except Eren got to her, quote unquote, freed her. Ymir chose to side with Eren, and he's the one with all the power.
Right.
I think that's how I read into it. That's how I kind of looked at it personally.
Hit him with the classic talk no jutsu.
Mm.
I mean, effectively, right? Like, he hit her with like a rousing speech to say, you know what, fuck all this. Like, we're gonna change time. You don't have to be a fucking slave anymore. You don't have to be, caged up as a bird. Just all the motifs from episode 1. And she's like, I cry every time. Let's go, Eren. PogChamp.
Yeah, makes sense.
Tier 3 sub.
Apparently.
Eren's a simp. Confirmed.
Isn't that the other way around? Wouldn't Ymir be a simp?
Oh, true.
She learned how to simp, and now is a tier 3 sub to Eren Yeager's OnlyFans.
That means Eren has 2 simps.
True.
So
Well, one's. I mean,
now, is he like? Now, I think the other thing as well, the anime only watchers. There was a lot of debate on like, well, is Eren a hero? Is he a villain? Is he an anti-hero? Like, where does he stand? And I think the drill genius of Isayama's writing is that he's kind of like he just is him. I don't think he's not trying to be a hero. He's obviously not trying to be a villain. He might do like villainous things. Like if you looked at it in a vacuum, but like that's pretty villainous.
Mhm.
But his character's so well written and it makes so much sense that everything he does is so extremely within his character of what his motivations align to, that it all just makes sense. I'm like, yeah, he would do that. These are all definitely, this is absolutely how Eren functions, which is why the whole reveal of like, no, Grisha didn't brainwash me. This is just how I've always been. It's like, if anything, he did the manipulation to Grisha. It was the other way around, right?
Yeah.
Eren was a mastermind the entire time. That's just how he's always been.
And if you go back, and that's why I think like this is a 2-watch show, like you have to go back and watch this because like at every point it's shown to you that like this kid has problems, and it's just like, oh well, it's a typical shonen, like he'll figure it out. He's a good guy. It's like, well, no, good people can do really, really horrible shit.
Mm-hmm.
You go back to like, I remember the scene like with them on a beach. Like I couldn't tell you like what precursed this scene, but they're on the beach and he legitimately points across the water and goes, if I kill everybody way over there, like now can we be free? If you go,
everyone looked at that scene and they're just like, oh well, he's just like that. He's just a sad boy. That. He's not. He wouldn't. He wouldn't act on that. He's just saying that, right? You know.
That's who he is,
and that's also Eren. I'm pretty sure that's post Historia kiss, right? Hand kiss.
I couldn't tell you.
Now, okay, now here.
That's a good question.
Well, because at that point he would. I guess would he already know that?
I need to check now. Because here's the problem: is the way it works is the timeline was they went into the basement, right? They got the books. And then they went back, received the medals, and during the medal ceremony, that's where the hand kiss happened. So where did the beach episode happen in between that? Where was the beach?
I think it was like the end of the season, no? Or like an end of one of those seasons.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, it was like the last episode. But like, did that happen before or after the kiss?
I don't know.
And now I can't remember either.
I think before.
It's a tough
before,
one.
but
I would guess it would have to, right? Like, I don't think that dialogue makes a lot of sense if it was post.
I mean, it's sort of like giving it away.
Wouldn't it make more sense if it's post? Because if it's post, then that means he says because he's already seen.
I checked it.
Yeah, so he's already seen that he knows that he has to basically kill everyone over on the other side of the ocean.
Fuck. Yeah.
And I mean, like, again, there's so many instances, even recently where like Hanji like comes down to check on him, and like he's just like, you have to fight, and like he's like trying to like, whether it's doubt, whether, you know, whatever is going on in his psyche at that point, like he knows what has to be done. Obviously.
Dude, this is like him asking this is like sort of like, Mom, can I eat the cake in the fridge? No, that's for later. Like we have friends over. Oh, I already did. That's like.
The funny thing as well is like if you look at the what I really liked about the scene where he goes back in time is whenever Eren looks at his younger self before the hand kiss, he looks at it with like complete disdain. It's fucking hilarious.
Because he's ignorant.
Yeah,
he doesn't know how the fucking world works and how dog shit it can be and how fucking cold it can be, right? Like he's seen some shit. He's seen enough shit. He's seen a couple lifetimes of shit, right? Like that does something to you, and like to see yourself just so blissfully like ignorant. Yeah, that probably fucks up. That's a weird parallel to draw, right? Like that's really odd.
So, okay, so how does the vision really work? Because
the vision.
What you mean?
Like
when he goes back in time?
No, what kind of vision is transported to Grisha? Because it sounds selective, right? It sounds like he can control what he sends.
Yes, he can because I believe Grisha also. when he
Otherwise,
does the
Grisha
whole-
would have never left because he sees his wife be eaten.
Yeah, because Grisha at the end also says in that scene where before he hugs Zeke, he says, "Why didn't you show me?" Because he wants to know what's going to happen to his
No, I think
wife.
he's saying like he's speaking like not in third person, but he's saying generally like, why didn't Eren show me more? Like, what are you like trying to hide from me? So it's almost like he's only being shown. And this gets into like the mechanics of like the Attack Titan's power, where it's like you see the future inheritor's vision. If I'm understanding it correctly.
Yeah.
So like he's seeing Eren's memory because he passes it to Eren, no?
No.
So how I understand it is that Eren passes down his or like the Founding Titans can just like throughout history just send their
Can they
memories
send back and forth though?
Yes, you can send it forward, which is
forward, but can you send backward?
You don't. What do you mean send it forward? But you just be remembering from the past. There's no sending forward.
Right. Oh, yeah, true. Wait. But it isn't the forward thing. No, it can't be.
I've been sending memories forward my entire life.
But between users, right? Even though that's not very novel because you inherit all memories of the person you ate in order to become a special type.
The way I understood it is that Eren specifically does not show Grisha
That's the way that
the memories that he wants to see.
Right.
To manipulate the future.
To manipulate him.
Yeah.
So implicitly in that is that he takes his mother's death for like a sacrifice he has to make. No?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what else is really messed up is Eren himself doesn't even see the full picture. It's been confirmed in the anime from the fact that he didn't know that he was going to get chained up and he wasn't just instantly going to have access to Ymir and all that. But it's also, this is like extremely light manga spoiler, but he also doesn't know the end game. He knows what he wants to do and how he wants to use his power, but he doesn't know the ending. For example, he doesn't know the ending of Attack on Titan, the series. He does not know how it actually ends. That's confirmed in the manga itself. So even his own ability to see in the future is like mega limited, apparently.
Also,
we don't have a clear view of how that works.
Yeah, when he kisses Historia's hand, he only sees like very specific things that like are in the future. He can't like ever.
No, he specifically stated when he kissed the hand, he could only see Grisha's memories, and he saw himself interacting with Grisha's memories
because of the time
through Grisha's memories.
Yeah, and then. I mean, it is also sort of implied that because he doesn't receive information from the next Attack Titan, that there's no next Attack Titan.
Yeah, in a way.
Right?
Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah.
That sounds...
So that means he...
Okay, we're getting into spoiler territory. Yeah, is that what I'm getting from those facial expressions?
It's like hard for me. I don't think it's like I can say yes or no thing, because then... Maybe we should just dodge this.
Right.
It's a loaded question.
You're getting into like we would have to explain to you like pretty significantly.
The one thing I do want to circle back to I think AVRL, you brought this up, like looking at Eren Yeager as like a character. Like Isayama created art. This is art. Like you get to interpret whether or not Eren Yeager is an anti-hero, a villain, a hero. Like, who is he a hero of? There are some people, like, you can look at Eldians and their plight and say, look, he's doing a very heroic feat in a messy way. Is he an anti-hero for some people? Sure. Is he a villain for some people? 100%. That's up for you, the viewer, to decide. That is art. I'm sorry. It is.
Yeah. No, for sure.
I like to imagine that this is an entire manga/anime that is told, the story is told from this perspective of the villain, if you want to categorize it that way.
Sure. Yeah.
In a simple way. It's told from the perspective of the villain, except you don't know that it's the villain the entire time.
Nope.
And by the time that you realize it's the villain, you're like, but actually, because we followed this person the entire time, you 100 just see, you almost like you kind of sympathize or empathize with him a little bit. You're like, wow, I can actually see why his motivations and his life has led him to this point. And if you were to look at this from like, I don't know, a more standard like pure protagonist POV, so maybe from if the anime and manga was instead done from Armin's POV,
Yeah.
Eren would just simply be like a normal villain. You'd be like, oh,
Yeah.
it's so
Betrayal.
deplorable. And it's like,
Yeah.
wow, he got betrayed, and what a mustache twirling villain, right? But because you see it only, you should actually see it from Eren's POV. It's not that way at all, because you see the trauma that he goes through. You see his entire history, and you're like, yeah, it all 100% makes sense why he is the way that he is.
I mean,
a
lot of characters go through that motion, right? Like you think
of course,
Reiner and
but it's
Bertolt
the key
as
is
like
the
these
POV.
pure guys, then they like fucking switch into like hyper evil mode, and then they bring them back later
Yeah,
on,
Sasuke.
right?
Literally Sasuke.
Yeah.
Literally,
I wouldn't. I agree. I think again the key here is the point of view. Sasuke, again, you get bits and pieces of the story told from his point of view, but most of it is from Naruto and
Right.
you know,
Well,
that collective.
I still do think though that like Sasuke is basically Eren if he was in a shonen, like to the like extent of, like it being extremely shonen, because Sasuke's in all extent is like basically kind of, like it's not Naruto, but he is probably the second or like co-main character in the show.
Right.
Most of the time, yeah, agreed.
You guys have lost me because I haven't seen Naruto.
I think to Kenobi's point, like it does fit. The issue that like it doesn't land as well is because it's not shown through his point of view.
Yeah.
You don't get to see everything. You just get to see the big moments. For me, a great parallel, and I think nearly the same reasons why Eren is going to be so prolific in just, I think, anime history. Is the same reasons that like I think Arthas as a character is going to be prolific in like RPG history, because you get to see the descent, the rise to heroism and the descent into madness and like the turn to being a villain through his point of view, right? Like you get to see all the fucked up shit that he goes through and what he turns into for whatever reason. You get to decide if he's a villain or a hero or whatever it is. And there's a reason why people attach so much weight to that character coming from the Warcraft universe. I think it's well done. And I think the key to AVRL's point is seeing from their perspective what actually goes on, not through somebody else's perspective.
Yeah. I will say the one take that always pisses me off on Twitter, and I think see it less now because it's sort of like the twists and turns, but like for years people have been saying Eren is a mid-tier protagonist. Which was always insane to me.
Yeah.
But that was a really commonly held opinion.
Oh,
well,
for sure.
I think it's because to be fair, a lot of like anime I think is like, at least on like Twitter and stuff, I think shonen is like the main demographic, I would say, of like people who like enjoy anime and stuff, and they're extremely attached to their protagonists and they want them to be cool, they want them to be the good guy,
Yeah,
they
power
want them to,
level
like, do
up,
all this
yeah.
shit, and
Man.
power level. And then you have Eren, who's like who's not in that mold, and they're like, he's mid, dog water.
I think for good writing like that, you need like those like slow moments. And that's kind of like where I dropped the show too, where it was just like, you need time to like let it breathe and build itself out. And then you can wrap it all together.
Yeah. But I just don't like the standard cookie cutter shonen protagonist because most of them are like unbearingly, like egregiously good to the point where like the way they're written is boring. It's like we know they're always gonna pick the always good option.
Yep.
They're so morally on a high horse, it pisses me off. Just they have zero, depth to the character.
Yeah.
Because they're so like unbelievably good.
Yeah,
to the point where I'm like, there's no one actually is like that. I don't think anyone is like outright unbelievably good as a human being. And some people might believe that they are.
You're not.
But like, I mean, it's when push comes to shove,
you have a price, but I'm sorry.
If shit hits the fan,
your
motherfucker's about to
$1 million
get into the dog eat dog world. If the apocalypse happens tomorrow, we'll see who's good and bad. That's how life is.
Yeah.
And I think real human being, it's all the gray water, morality. It's a lot of gray areas. So like Eren's character's so well done because it has the depth of a character that is super consistent to the way that it's written in terms of how the character is, but also has a lot of unpredictable, a lot of you can't really quite predict everything just because he's not so straight and narrow.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, he is both equally straight and narrow in terms of where his values and principles are, but also like in terms of the real, because he's such an, I don't know if I can classify him as an Andy here, but maybe that'd be the best way to do it. But
Probably.
he's not predictable in the way that, you know, he's always just going to pick the righteous, correct option. He's the lawful good paladin, and that's all he's ever going to do.
Yeah.
He really is like closer to like a true neutral or even a chaotic neutral to me, which is really exciting.
Yeah. He feels like a person you might know.
Yes, that's exactly. It feels very authentic because, like, and I think that's the issue a lot of people have because they consume media that has Disney principles. Like, you have an evil person, and then there's the good guy, which is not at all like reality.
Which is
right?
Naruto.
Like,
Naruto is like fucking
good versus evil, and it works.
There's like very few, and even Naruto has some
Sweet,
shades,
but
like for instance with the Pain thing, where he definitely wants to kill Pain, and then he sort of sees the motivation behind Pain's pain, and then sort of turns around on that. But eventually, like, chooses the present other cheek approach, and but yeah, like, and it just feels so much more organic when you realize that even the people that you would generally think to be evil, like, even if like, think of the most evil people, there probably are some who are legitimately just like rotten, and there's something like wrong about them in their psychology, where it's like, if you're a mass murderer, I'm sorry, but but the vast majority of people you think of as truly evil, if you were to like have the Eren moment where you go through their points in life, you would have the ability to empathize with their development into that. Realizing that probably if you were in that position, had made those experiences as well, you would probably not land too far off. Even though morality to a decent degree is also genetically determined, as we know. Like the understanding of what is moral, or like the inclinations, the ability to empathize, is to a degree a genetic feature, right? Like, but
all I'm hearing is you're telling people to headbutt their bullies to understand their pain.
No, to be in the position where like you could be the asshole, right? Like,
sure, have somebody headbutt you.
Had shit gone a little bit different, you could be the asshole, or maybe you are the asshole, but like you are or maybe there are no assholes, but like very powerful stories that you believe in, right? And that makes it so much more empathy inducing. Like, it is sometimes, and I think media has been pretty good, and it has been a pretty big focal point of media to introduce like this empathize with villain type of media. And I would say like that first started, actually, if you think about it, like Attack on Titan almost in that part, because it also came around at the time, feels like the Breaking Bad Dexter type of motive, where you're following actually the villain, and yes, they have some righteous bends or whatever, but they still do pretty fucked up shit, and then unintentionally also like cause the death of actually innocent people, right?
Yeah. It's like a Death Note approach, where you're following Light around, and he's just like, bro, like, is this good or bad? Like, you get to decide. Yeah. That's why people, I think, connect with it.
Here's the real complexity of the character. And this is like, by the way, my favorite show or my favorite type of story doesn't have protagonists and antagonists. Everyone is just both at the same time, because that's how just people are. Like, I don't think there is a world where someone is like just truly straight and narrow, 100% like righteous to the core with zero, nothing bad at all. That just doesn't exist. And in the same measure, there's no one that's the opposite. There's no one that's just so mustache twirlingly evil that there's no like hint of good intention in there, or hint of love in there. You know, like there's that type of, you know, binariness of like it's either fully good or fully bad is so boring in like most stories that are mainstream. So anything that's not that is great, because you just want to show where like you don't know who the good guy and the bad guy is, because there is no good guy and bad guy. Everyone's just a guy. They're all just different guys who are living their lives. Now, the real great complexity about Eren's character is that from seasons 1 to 3, I think even he believed he was that shonen hero because
for sure.
he was like, I'm just gonna kill the Titans. They're bad. They're they're gonna stop humanity, and I have to save humanity. I'm gonna be the good guy, right? And everyone believed that, and you're watching that, and you're seeing that he at that point he really is kind of like a more of a typical shonen protagonist.
Very shonen at the start.
From seasons 1 to 3, right? He's getting more powerful and all that. But then you see season 4 and shit really changes. I think it changes for everybody because that is when you discover that the world is bigger than Paradis Island. In fact, you didn't even know it was a night. You don't even know where you were.
Yeah.
Right? The entire show flipped itself on the head from season 4 onwards, or from that
arguably
point of the
switched
manga
genres.
onwards. I remember when I read the manga and I post basement from the manga, the entire story was just different to me. The way I viewed it, entirely different. And I feel like that's where you see the real true development of Eren's character, where it's just like, oh, we're not up against Titans.
Yes.
We're up against everybody.
Yeah.
The entire world wants us dead. And then you can start to see how his brain shifts from like, in order to be the hero, I have to, and to save my people, I have to be the quote unquote villain here, even though I don't think he would see it that way, to defeat my enemies who are now just everyone outside of Paradis Island to protect his people and the people that he loves. And I guess to the point is that we also had this discussion off stream, off recording, where it's just like Marley, for some reason, this maybe I'm a little bit annoyed at this part of the writing, but Marley do feel a little bit too evil to me, where they're so unbelievably bad in terms of how they treat Eldians and how they subjugate them, that like there's not even a single person, there's no one there that's even like, maybe we shouldn't do that, and maybe you look at the time period, it looks like more like a World War One time period, and propaganda is like really strong at that stage in the time. And everyone literally just only believes what the government says, and the government says Eldians are all bad and they're lesser than normal people, and we should subjugate them, and all the peasants are like, yes, we should do that. Whereas nowadays, people are you'd be asking some questions, you'd be like, are they that bad? Should we be doing this?
I mean,
maybe we shouldn't treat them that way.
A certain subset of people that are very brave to not be thrown in with everyone else, as history tells us, would.
Yeah, so, but they do look pretty totalitarian. The fact that they have like actual ghettos that that mirror like Jewish ghettos in World War II, right? It's a very similar thing. The armbands, I mean, it's all there. All the symbolism is there. The point is like Malians they're painted in this like extremely kind of quote unquote evil light. But because they are that way, that feeds Eren's motivation to be like, well, it's literally them or us, because there's no peace here. That's why everyone's saying like, oh, but why don't they just follow like Armin's plan? That's bullshit. You can't, because Mali ain't gonna fucking play by those rules. They want to annihilate you. They're in this world of Attack on Titan, it's either you are annihilated or you have to annihilate them, because they will not let you exist. So your only option is you can all just die, or you have to have the offensive and you have to get rid of them. That's the only solution left, and that's why Eren went to the lengths that he had to go to.
Yes, and that's why you probably need to write Mali that way. Otherwise, Eren's motivations feel like, okay, so you got founding Titan power. Yumi is your best girl now, and you choose that option as like a solution, bro. Like, even though like you clearly have seen that there could be a potential for anything else, I think this. Unfortunately, you kind of have to lean in there in order for it to be coherent.
There's a very pivotal scene that will be upcoming. We've already seen this in the manga. It's actually a flashback scene. I'm not going to speak too much of it because I don't want to spoil anything. It's not really a massive spoiler anyway, but it explains a lot. There's a turning point for Eren that people wonder like, at what point does Eren specifically say, fuck this? And to people looking at him, he looks like he's probably gone off the rails, right? At what point does he go from Eren to like Jaegerish Eren? Like where's that breaking point?
Yeah,
that hasn't happened in the anime yet.
Yeah.
You don't get that context until a little bit later on. That will probably happen in the next 2 to 3 episodes. I think in the next 2 episodes, you're going to get that context. Right. There's a very specific flashback that you don't know about yet, unless you've seen the manga, you read the manga, where this happens, and Eren's like, fuck this, I know what I need to do. Yeah. That's the moment that convinces him there can be no peace, because I think Armin's plan sounds nice, like, oh yeah, we should just, introduce ourselves and say, hey, we would like to be peaceful and be part of the world.
And Eren's
And
like,
there is a turning point where they specifically being Eren, I mean, I think he's the realest one in that room, where he realizes that reality simply cannot happen, and it is literally them or us, and I choose us.
Okay, that's good. Because
like
currently it's
like
not...
most people would. Let's face it.
it's rumbling time, baby.
Yeah.
Woo!
If you like think of it even on like a smaller scale for people who are like, no, like I'm not Eren. Nope. No, I think Eren's a bad dude. I think he's a fucking fucked up guy. I think he's a genocidal.
He is a fucked up guy. Like,
Yeah, he's a fucked up guy. We're all
Yeah.
fucked up, bro. I hate to break it to you. You're fucked up. Hey, listener, you're fucked up too. You have demons. You have darkness in you, right? Like everybody's fucked up. Even if you minimize it, like you're not taking the moral high road and letting your family just get fucking trampled if you could stop it, right? You might go farther. You might not go, right? Like you might not go as far, maybe.
especially
Right?
because you know how to like do the
Right.
thing.
Yeah. Like there's you're not too far off.
You are extremely aware that like you doing this thing is going to like
Yeah.
keep your people safe or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a time restraint. He can't wait his entire life. He's gonna die in like X amount of
True.
years.
Yep.
So he has to do that. It's like, and he knows that he will have the power because there's a very specific circumstance where he has all these titans within him, including the founder, and he can do this, and he has the will in almost like a Thanos kind of way.
Yeah.
What was the quote? It's like the hardest decisions require the greatest wills, or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, like, and he is like, I believe, based on his character and how it's written, he would believe that there is no one else that would have the will to make that decision that only he can make, right? To go and just trample the world. And so based on the time constraints as well, he also doesn't have time to just wait around to see if there can be peace. A decision simply must be made, or else he will just simply expire and die because there's a hard time limit on how long he can be alive for being a Titan shifter.
It's an accelerated trolley problem, right? Like you have a split couple seconds to decide who lives and who dies, and you have the power to change the future. What do you decide? The people that are closest to you, or some random strangers that want to kill you? I don't know. Seems pretty cut and dry to me.
It's also, he knows that like whoever he leaves the future to are better people than he is.
Oh, for sure.
Right? Like like he knows, okay, I'm trampling this shit, and then Armin is here for a couple more years to get this shit on the road and shit
Well,
like that.
I mean, he also
Careful.
he also knows it. Yeah, okay.
Because we're getting a little too we're getting into some anime or some manga here.
What does he know? What?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what he does know. Because no, he wouldn't know because this is 2021 that the manga chapter was released that this happened.
Okay.
So. No, he just like wouldn't know this, so I'm not gonna say anything.
Bro, by virtue of where you guys stop, I'm like trying to recreate like what
No, because something happens where it's basically the point in the manga that Avril was talking about, where it's like he knows that like this is the thing that like I am going to do, that I need to do, and I literally can't do anything else. There's no other option.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've seen too much. You already know how the fucking at least you know how some of the sausage is made. I think to Avril's point, like he doesn't know how the shit ends, but he's seen an ending, and that ain't good. So we're gonna not do that. How about that? We're gonna do the opposite.
This is literally peace was never an option. The anime, you know, like
pretty much.
It's like the most truest quote that you could apply to this, because it literally isn't. I mean, and unfortunately, it's not even because of Eren or anyone in LD. It's Marley made that choice. It's their choice is that there cannot be peace. Right. So in a fucked up way, you could almost say that Marley brought it upon themselves. But the problem is, and here's the other issue, is so the question would be then, why doesn't Eren just crush Marley and let that be? Because if you only do that, you still look like a genocidal maniac, and the rest of the world will still turn on you anyway.
Yeah.
And also, it would prove Marley right, because Marley's entire gospel is that like all Eldians, they're all evil and they're all monsters and they're all going to destroy us. And then Marley gets destroyed. Well, guess what? Marley looks like they're pretty fucking damn right if that's how it goes. So unfortunately, Eren has to take it even further than that, because he knows that if he only stops at Marley, the rest of the world would retaliate anyway. So it's a really messed up situation.
Yeah,
Very.
it's literally them or us, and it's not like you're saying. It's not just Marley. It's everybody. Because like for instance, like just play with that hypothetical, like you're saying, like now it's all Eldians. Eldians cause the rumbling. We have to persecute Eldians, right? And it only continues that cycle. So you have to literally murder the cycle, or it just continues. Yeah, you have to literally break it, right? You have to.
The thing is,
in the most visceral way.
but the thing is, does it really stop with anyone else but Eldians? Aren't some Eldians also pissed off by this move? Isn't there animosity
sure.
within that group that keeps the fight going?
I wouldn't doubt it.
Like some of them
Maybe
like
not.
some people from Mali, right? Like have ties there. Like
I
Gabby
wouldn't
is
doubt
not
it.
going to like go like, oh yeah, makes sense.
Well, I mean, yeah, I don't. Gabby's an interesting character. I
Gabby
think
also
she-
can't do shit right now.
she's
Yeah.
also done with her arc, anyways. Pretty much.
There's very little Gabby can do about that right now. But yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, there would be. I mean, you'll see.
Yeah.
This conversation gets really dangerous as well as far as mangas.
Mhm.
You know, you'll
Very
see that-
dangerous. Now.
We're teetering on the edge, boys.
I had to catch myself because there was something that I possibly said that was in the last chapter. So like, you know, we're getting to the fucking nitty gritty.
Yeah, we're on the horizon. We
So,
don't.
I think
really...
there's still like one or two spins left in terms
for
of.
sure.
I wouldn't call it a twist, but like there's a few
Yeah.
more turns in the storyline that are still
Mhm.
kind of interesting. I mean, everything there's still. Yeah, I would say there's still a few more reveals. There's one I hinted at in the next couple of episodes to start with, but that's like pretty minor. There's still some pretty cool stuff up ahead. I think the main stuff with all the Ymir and the time travel, that was like the big portion. That's
Mm.
your
that's
big
like the
ticket reveal. After that, everything is a smaller reveal compared to that. But that's like these last
Especially
two
'cause
episodes. Why I said was going to be gigantic.
Especially because it explains a lot of like how because like no one knows like what the fuck is happening, and then like it just kind of like is like this is how the system works.
Mhm.
Yay!
Yeah. Yeah, it's so satisfying that the system is so internally coherent, right? Like that the logic just bears out almost in every single turn.
Yep.
Right? Like you might not necessarily agree with like the conclusions that some characters draw, but like it makes sense to a fairly high amount, and the mechanics of it. There's no like.
It doesn't feel cheap.
Yeah, it's any hazy bullshit, right?
Nope.
It's like, oh yeah, okay. Well,
I think it's a little convoluted in some aspects, but it still feels like I think by the end of it, it makes some sense. And I think that's enough for most people, especially with like how bold like the paths and like the Zeke and the Eren, like time travel, you know, that whole vision quest was written. It explains a lot. It shows a lot. It adds context. It, you know, even foreshadows some things that are coming. But does so in a way that doesn't feel cheap. It feels like you're building up to this big event. It feels like it makes so much sense why these things happened, and it adds the context. Yeah, dude, I don't know. I agree with a lot of the recency bias Andy takes that are like, oh my god, it's just coming out. Everybody's like just nutting about it. But like when you take this show to brass tacks and you put it up with some of like the better shows, like just in anime or in manga, like yeah, it's written really fucking well. Period. Like it's a good show.
Yeah.
Flat out.
How do you
It just is.
How do you think about? So from what I could tell, just like putting the pictures next to each other, like the anime stays pretty true to the manga, right? Like
Yeah. So that's fair.
It
Pretty much, yeah.
If anything, it exacerbates some of the effects. Like for instance, some of the faces of Eren just look all the more determined or like fucking
It heightens some.
right.
To be fair to Mappa, they've done actually a pretty decent job of like ripping
Shot for shot.
animated shot for shot scenes,
Yep.
which is actually something that I think Wix struggled with to an extent, where it's like it wasn't this. I think the detail that they've done with Mappa has been like absolutely like the one Yelena shot looks like it's fucking exactly ripped from the
Straight
manga.
from the
Yeah.
comic, yeah.
they've actually extended some shots as well. The chapter that we just went over in the previous episode, if you go through that chapter, you'll notice that the anime adds scenes. For example, the whole Ymir like getting water from the well, and there's an old lady she talks to, and then you see all the spears and the horses coming over the hill, and then the town gets burned. That wasn't in the manga.
Yep.
You didn't see any of that. That was added in for the anime, and there's some other stuff that was added in the anime as well. I think the biggest difference between anime and manga is the selection of pacing of when stuff happens. So certain things that happen in the manga are placed, you know, they'll either delay that for a further episode or do that one episode earlier, and just sort of do stuff out of order, but not in a breaking canon kind of way. Just like it's for pacing purposes. They do stuff out of order because, you know, I don't think you can just do a clean like one chapter equals one episode. There are way more chapters than there are episodes. Where up to 80 episodes, and it's only chapter 120, and that's 122. 80 episodes, 122. So you've condensed multiple chapters or like 1.5 chapters into like a single episode. So the pacing gets a bit weird because the pacing in the manga is such that beginning of chapter, end of chapter, that's your scope.
Yep.
And so like, yeah, things change a little bit in that regard. Change being like what order things happen in, but the same things that happen are exactly happening, and the same lines as well from the characters. That's all there. Some real good shot for shot stuff happening as well. The only things that I think the manga does significantly better is the fact that you don't know what the voice. Some of the reveals are better. For example, the Eren war veteran thing where he looks like a Malian soldier, no one knows it's Eren. In the manga, that's done way better than it is the anime because you don't hear Eren's voice first and foremost. You just see this fucking dude with long hair. You're like, I don't know who that is. Right, and then the huge, and there's like you see it's Eren. There's like, oh shit, like that moment was huge in the manga. But it was
that was spoiled all over the place. Like I wasn't even caught up, and like I saw that, I'm like, oh, damn, okay, that's crazy.
This.
I mean, yeah, that thought definitely crosses my mind, and then I just go back to watching fucking 2D anime fucking VTubers and my degenerate hole.
How many episodes are we on currently? We have
80.
No, but in this season only.
Oh, fuck.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's meant to be only 12 episodes in the season. Is that correct? For the second half of the season. So
they're
6
not
left.
Finishing. There's no way they're finishing.
So there's 7. I've counted. There's 17 chapters left, and only 6 episodes.
No shot
so
they're gonna finish.
How many? So you would need to have like at least 2 chapters per episode. So it does sound like they need to do the movie.
Yeah.
It sounds like they're gonna have to do the movie.
It's gonna be a sick movie.
Even if you do 2 chapters per episode, you wouldn't finish it right now.
Yep. They also should, I think, do the movie because I think that it's
big budget for some of those fucking ending scenes, bro.
Yeah, I mean, you just do big budget and you just like you have someone sit down. That should the ending scene, like the ending chapter, I think should probably just be like one whole movie, and then just like
I think like the last 4.
No.
Give me the last 4, bro.
No,
I want to see that shit with some high fucking budget. Are you kidding me?
For like, again, pacing purposes and storytelling purposes, it makes more sense to have like an entire, not quite arc, but like a coherent movie start to finish. And you would have to incorporate like, I think up to 5 chapters worth of content into that. But you do it in a way where like you're not just going through the panels. No, it's not.
It's not going to be
minutes.
I mean,
90
you
minutes,
could.
Easy.
I was going to do 2 hours, but
I was thinking 2 hours. Yeah, I mean, I usually
if I can have 2 hours for 4 chapters, like, bro, nuts.
No way. No, knowing the content of it, I think you can get it done in 90 minutes.
Oh, I don't.
They're gonna add other.
I don't doubt it, but
I assume they're gonna fluff it up a bit because it's like fucking the movie. I would assume so. Like it wouldn't.
Maybe.
I think.
How long was like the Demon Slayer movie? I don't know. I just shot in the dark. I don't know if anybody saw it or whatever.
Demon Slayer movie. It was. It won't tell me.
You don't have to look it up. It's not a big deal. I'm sure it's not like super.
I'm literally
long.
on the Wikipedia page.
He's already there. He's nutting.
He's already doesn't tell me.
Yo, if anybody wants another like good writing, but like in a different way, go rewatch Ghost in the Shell and fucking hate your life.
Well, the movie.
No. Like the original like anime series.
Yeah, the Demon Slayer movie was 2 hours. So
okay. But there again, it's also like not the end of a series. I don't know.
It's like, I mean, it's.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that did really well. That's all I know.
I mean, it'll do well, whatever.
Attack on Titan will probably fucking. I don't know. Demon Slayer is
Well,
kind of a different beast.
Yeah.
That's like the hotness.
I
right
want
now.
the budget for Demon Slayer on this fucking movie. Holy shit! Like,
Oh, for sure. Yeah, bro. Like, yeah, I would genuinely, equip my COVID mask and go buy a movie ticket to go see this
With the
movie.
COVID
Wow.
mask.
Like, give me 4 episodes with like a big budget.
Actually, I'm gonna be real.
Nuts.
I think just looking over the content now, I think 8 chapters even. The
Sure.
movie. Seriously.
Yeah, you
'Cause
have the
it has to be
time.
it has to be. It's not even a time thing. It's like where does it make sense to have a break in the story and then a resumption of the story? Where you would either resume the story. That's all makes sense.
But isn't
This
the rest
makes
a little bit snooze in comparison?
No.
Yo,
No.
bro.
It's no. Okay, no.
The
It's-
next 3
it's-
episodes will be snooze probably.
I think the next 2 might be a little snooze, but then after that, things will
Yeah.
heat up
Yeah.
real fast.
Yeah.
Things will heat the
You
fuck
end
up.
on a high note. For sure.
Very high.
It's not like the peak of the show, but like it's by far is its news.
Okay.
Yeah. Good show. All things considered. Great show. I think you could argue is like one of the better shows of this generation of anime. Writing
100%.
literally just carried on writing. That's it.
Yep.
Right.
Well,
That's our.
That about does it. anyone else want to
Go
add a
acquired.
little thing about how much they enjoyed
Oh.
Attack on Titan?
If people haven't already, go watch Attack on Titan Abridged.
True.
What's that?
Very
I think
funny.
Everyone
Very
should
funny.
watch it. Everyone should watch that. It's a bit.
It's a bit crass.
Dude, by the way, I looked up a character analysis of Eren, and the person who did the analysis on it even went as far as reading into the Attack on Titan high school spin-off that Isayama did. That's
really?
correct. If you didn't know, Isayama
Yeah.
did like a random comedy high school spin-off. And even in that, Eren's character is still like blisteringly accurate to how his character is meant to be. Like, it's not a different story. Like, it is and it isn't. It's just meant to be a joke, alternate universe in a different like setting, like they're on high school. But I don't know, they explain it in a way where, like, yeah, the Eren high school thing was like where the walls never fell and there's no colossal titan and his mum doesn't die or something like that, and how his character is, and it all just feeds in. Like, the character depth of Eren is so deep that even in the joke side story, it's still like mega consistent and actually gives you clues into Eren's,
Motivations.
mentality and his
Yeah.
psyche. Like, it's that deep that Isayami's like joke side story even counts.
Because it feels clear. It feels like each of these characters has like a D&D-esque sheet of like, these are my goals, these are what I want, this is my like moral alignment, and it's true to that. Like, they grow obviously, and that changes as people do, but like it's very clear that this was an organized writing process and not just something that like you fly by the seat of your pants and just decide that this character is going to do this and have this growth moment. Now it makes sense. Everything makes sense. Nothing about the show, rarely does it feel cheap. Nobody's pulling your ass. Nobody's, it's all handed to you.
Just a couple of things they don't explain. There's a couple minor plot holes, like how the hell does Zeke just like I managed to break free from the King's Woman. How did you do that?
Yeah.
You want to explain that, or are we supposed to just buy it?
My shackles,
We just
these
buy it,
shackles
apparently.
cannot bind me.
So I think that's like my real like nitpicky critique on it.
Sure.
But yeah, super happy with where the anime is. Can't wait to see how it goes. Another 6 episodes for this season. Maybe a movie. We'll see how it goes. It does look like there's enough that they're not going to fit it in the last 6 episodes.
If they fit
Unless-
the rest of this into the next 6 episodes, I
it'd be
think
a
it would be a
travesty.
disservice.
It will
Travesty.
be Game of Thrones season 8.
Yes.
Condense everything into like 6 episodes and do your best.
Yeah.
It will feel cheap. It will feel like things are not explained properly. It will feel rushed. No, you need more than
They
6
need the
episodes.
movie, yeah.
So it does sound like you need a movie.
Yep.
The thing is, like, the next 2 episodes, if they're snooze, couldn't they theoretically be cut or cut down?
No, because you can't cut things in this story because everything means something.
Yeah.
As we've learned, everything means something. So you can't. I mean, there's a couple of things that are about to happen that feel like, oh man, I wish we didn't have to go through that. I can't even specify what it is.
Yeah.
But it's just like there are a couple of things where I'm like, bro, can we just get on with the rumbling? I really don't want to do a beach story right now.
Yeah.
But like,
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
That's why it'll be snooze for 2 episodes. But aside from that, like after that, we're like, all right, now we're finally getting on with the rumbling. All right, shit's getting real again. Thank you.
But it's that beach episode that like ties something else together.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Like everything matters, even the beach episodes.
Kind of need everything.
Especially the one at the end of season 3. That was the very important beach episode.
Yeah.
Every other anime, they're just splashing water and having some laughs, and that's it.
Wow, what a fun day.
Our one is like, if we kill everyone on the other side of the ocean, are we free? Like, holy Jesus! All right, Eren, that was quite deep.
Is that like a deconstruction of like anime in that moment where it's just like we're on a beach where everything's supposed to be about friendship and sunshine, and Eren's just like, you know what? Fuck this.
You know what?
Maybe it is just genocide. Like the most real. Yeah, maybe I woke up today and chose violence.
Yeah. All right.
I don't know.
Well, that's that about wraps up discussion on German flesh Gundams consider the idea of genocide. Is that how I described it?
Attack on Titan is a Gundam anime. Confirmed.
It's, yeah.
Flesh Gundams, yeah.
Flesh Titans debate the idea of genocide, the anime. Flesh Gundams. All right. Cool. Done. Thank you. Being here, Kenobi. Good to catch up with you and having your thoughts on everything.
Thank you.
You're also an anime lad on the AOT. I'm not even an anime lad. I'm just an AOT guy.
You're gonna be by the time this is over.
I watched Dragon Ball Z. Does that count?
Yeah.
We'll see what happens next week. We'll see if things happen. Are we gonna get some more news? Is Mike Ybarra finally gonna play Overwatch on stream like he promised?
Wait, didn't?
He only played Call of Duty, to my knowledge. He didn't play Overwatch.
Classic.
Chump.
Unfortunate.
Classic.
Unlucky.
Same, by the way. Same.
So, we'll see what happens. In the meantime, I got a bit more Valorant to cast. Shout outs to Brendan Seisher, who got announced for VCTNA.
True.
And see y'all next week for 214, which should be a fun one, hopefully. And one where we get to discuss just house news. Was the next episode of Attack on Titan. I don't know. We'll find out.
True.
See what happens. Thank you very much. See you next week.